Living every day in your head for free. You can tap away, but I will not hear you scream. You can break the keys, spread your toxicity, your world outside reality. In your room, a little hideaway, but you let it through. Enough to go insane, living in the dark hasn't treated you well. You're building your own prison cell. Hey, wait, don't waste it on me. Spite, lies telling you, don't waste it on me. Did I brush you off? Is it your lack of friends? We never met, even if you pretend. Am I in your debt? I don't owe you nothing. Don't say something you'll regret. Hey, wait, don't waste it on me. Spite, lies telling you, don't waste it on me. Hate, rage, don't waste it on me. Spite, life's telling you, don't waste it on me. Rage, don't waste it on me. Spite, life's telling you, don't waste it. I'm telling you, don't waste it. Life's telling you, don't waste it on me.
Hello gamers from around the world, this is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and I would like to welcome you to today's episode of the World of Gaming co-streaming again on your channel, Dutch.
We are indeed, yes.
Yeah, we
are
gotta
indeed.
keep the traffic there going too.
To be fair, I mean, we agreed
Yeah.
beforehand, before we get into it, we agreed
Yeah.
beforehand as well. News is relatively light. If it wasn't for the fact that we had a state of play yesterday, we'd probably have like an hour podcast. So it was better
Yeah.
off combining them today than it was to do two podcasts and have wafer thin news to talk about.
That is so true. However, yeah, we had a state of play, lots to talk about there.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of, yeah, well, not the biggest news of the year so far, but some interesting stuff. Some minor tidbits, you know, and usually those can be bring up a very good conversation too. But let us welcome our community. Great to see you all. A lot of familiar names here already in the chat, actually in both chats. And of course, a big welcome to everyone who listens after the fact, either here on YouTube or on the podcast services around the globe, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. Big welcome to today's World of Gaming. And Dutch, of course, Cheers to you. How you doing, my man?
Yes, indeed, sir. Yeah, everyone, welcome to the midweek mix-up as well. I'm doing good. Still addicted to Pal World. It's actually driving me nuts at the moment because I've got so many other games I need to finish, and it keeps pulling us away from them because I need to finish building this, or I need to finish creating this. So I'm going to set myself a target of just beating the final 3 bosses, and then put the game down, and come back to it later on because I've got too much to do. But we'll talk about what we've been playing properly afterwards. Other than that, I'm good. Had a mini promotion at work today, which is always good news. You're muted, by the way.
Yeah, oh, damn.
For the cough.
I was saying congratulations, but I have to mute myself today a lot because I'm still battling a cough. I was actually this close to cancel the podcast because I'm coughing up all kinds of shit today. But I thought, man, I would just miss our community. I would miss you, brother. So we have to pull through here.
Yeah.
So, but don't be surprised if I'm going to mute myself a lot.
Yeah,
today,
yeah.
so.
I might just get a little plaque just says muted on there, so every time you
muted. yeah. See, the thing is, I mute myself usually on the mic.
Yeah.
And then you don't see it. If you would mute yourself within the software that we are using, yeah, you would see it on the screen.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But the difference is though, Boxy, is if you did it on the screen, it would still come through on the audio on StreamYard for you because your mic's into OBS, not into StreamYard. I wouldn't hear you. I wouldn't hear you on StreamYard.
That is very
true. But
true.
Everybody else would still hear you.
I've never thought about it this way, but you're right. You are right. So I would have to mute myself on StreamYard, but then you would hear the coughing.
Yeah, I won't hear it, but
See,
everybody else
there's no
will.
other way than to mute myself on the mic.
Exactly.
I think we figured that out.
But yeah, so other than that, that was good. And obviously, I've had a bit of a rush around because I'm looking after the cat again this week. So bought cat food, rushed home, got sorted, and here we are.
And here we are. So now we can relax.
Yeah.
We were just complaining before the show about the stressful days we both had.
Yeah.
But now we are in the Zen space. I consider this like
relaxed
now
time.
I can take my mind off of work and other things and just focus on the things I really do enjoy, like gaming. And that brings us to this good question, man. What have you been playing?
Yes.
And of course, we want to hear from everyone in the chat as well. What you guys been up to? What have you been playing?
Indeed. So I've been addicted to Pal World, which had unbelievable success this last week. 90 million players, like 12 million on purchased players on Steam, 7 million players on Gamepass. I would imagine at least 1 million of those are sales, because you always get the occasional sale as well there, so you're not getting everything. But having a concurrent on Steam of like 2 million and a concurrent on Xbox of 3 million. So there's no wonder they had issues across a couple of the days if they had a combined concurrent user base of 5 million people playing at the same time. Absolutely bonkers. But the game is rightfully addictive. It's obviously an early access because there is, especially on Xbox, lots of issues. There is lots of issues. The saving grace for this game is it has a gameplay loop that is very satisfying. It's got that minute-to-minute thing, so you're always doing something. There's always something to do. There's always something that catches your eye. There's always a dungeon to do, or something to catch, or something to build, or something to some place to explore, or there's always something that keeps you occupied. So it has a satisfying gameplay loop. If it wasn't as satisfying, as it wasn't as fun, it wasn't as interactive as it is, then I think people would have a lot more issues. I don't think many games would get away with the amount of bugs that you have in this game, because it is full of bugs. Like, world pops in, world doesn't pop in. A lot of the worlds are so broken that when you fly over them, it just doesn't load, which means you just fall through the floor. So you can't go by foot on that area. You can only fly over it, and even then, you've got stamina bar, so you've got to be careful that you don't fall through into the abyss. Um, Aside from those issues, though, like I say, the game is really fun. I've got like over 3.5 days playtime in it so far. 700 gamer score out of 1,000. Only got the bosses left, like the last couple of bosses to do, and then it's finished. Caught pretty much every pal. I've got maybe 11 to go or something till I finish them all.
Wait, so there is an ending to Palworld? I haven't played it yet. I thought it was like an infinite gameplay loop.
Oh, I mean, they're going to add to it, but yeah, there is technically an ending once you've finished building everything you can build. Once you've finished, I mean, it's not short by any means. Like I say, I've got 3.5 days playtime in it so far, and I've still got bits to do. There's a huge technology tree, and the further you go up, the longer it takes to level up, as you can imagine.
Okay.
And there's a lot of the technology tree to unlock, a lot of things that you get the higher levels. Like the guns, for instance, that they advertise all over the game. You don't unlock those guns till like level 35 plus. And then you start unlocking all the weapons. Then you start unlocking the machine guns. Then you start unlocking like the bunker things with the heavy artillery and the rocket launchers and stuff. Before that, it's bow and arrow. It's like Horizon Zero Dawn. But with pals and not mechs.
Okay.
But yeah, so there is an end. There's bosses you need to beat, a bit like the gyms on Pokemon, but instead, obviously, you've got these bosses that are situated around the place in towers. You've got dungeons you can go into to get other loot and things like that, and of course you can collect them all as you do on Pokemon. So once you've maxed that out, then you're done. But it's probably if you're gonna do all of that, it'll still take you at least 5 days. I would say at least 5 days to max it out.
Okay.
So there's a substantial amount of playtime in there, and that's before they've added the extras. So they're going to add new islands, they're adding new pals, they're adding new bosses, they're adding PvP, they're adding raids. So this game's going to just continue, and I think they're just going to evolve this thing for a long time. So I can see them adding more and more onto it and adding more achievements to do, and when you get more bosses and things like that. So. But highly, like I say, highly addictive, super fun. They haven't got crossplay yet with Steam. That's what they want to do. You can't do a lot of things that you can on Steam on Xbox. So you can't rename your pals. You can't put names on signs. You can't rename your own character on Xbox. So I'm just known as player 448 or something like that. You can only have a maximum of 4-player co-op on Xbox, whereas you can have 32 on PC. You have dedicated servers on PC. You don't have dedicated servers on Xbox. It's local, so it's only whoever owns that world, as opposed to a server that's open all the time for everybody to just jump in and out of. So those are things that are coming to Xbox. Xbox have already said in their statement, congratulatory statement for the post the other day of well done, you've hit 7 million. They've already said they're working with Pocket Pay to assist them with all of the server side stuff that needs help with, and how to implement better tools and fix the game and things like that. So it's obviously they're the biggest third party launch on Gamepass ever. So massive hats off to them, considering the amount of games that they've had in there that are huge games. To overtake them and still be in preview is just bonkers.
It is.
Aside from
it is
that,
a massive success, man.
Aside from that,
besides from that, anything else?
Yes, I give Brotato a game. Have you seen Brotato?
I have seen that. That is like the Vampire Survivor kind of.
It is. It's more
game,
difficult.
Right?
It's substantially more difficult because it is a much smaller map. So on Vampire Survivors, it's just kind of infinite. You can just kind of keep wandering and wandering and wandering so you can run away. It is just a little like 8x8 square on Brotato, and that's it. So like, and they spawn literally all around you as you're going on. You've got a timer that you've got to last, and the timer's only about 2 minutes or something like that every round. But it gets more and more difficult enemies as the rounds progress. Also, I want to call them out. They have 83 achievements on that game, and every achievement is either 1, 2, or 3 gamer score until you hit like a certain level, and then it gives you a 5, and then it goes back to 1, 2, or 3 gamer score. I was like, you better not have just 1G all the way to 1,000. You better not have 1,000 achievements of 1G. I will murder you. So I've got like 20G and I turned it off. I was like, you're gonna ruin my gamer score if I don't turn this off now. It's fun, but it is more difficult. But I can see where this would be potentially as addictive as Vampire Survivors for people as well. The weapon upgrades are far easier to do. You get a load of buffs as well in there. You can combine weapons. So if you've got like a couple of the same weapon in your inventory, you can combine them and make one strong weapon, and then free up a slot to add a new weapon to it. But yeah, it's a cool little game on there. I would definitely recommend giving it a try. But if you were already addicted to Vampire Survivors, then I recommend not giving it a try. Otherwise, you'll be stuck on this game for a while.
Yeah.
So
good stuff.
I think.
Yeah.
Other than continuing with Final Fantasy 16, I'm 85% of the way through now, so I'm pretty much to the end. Thank God. That is it.
Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah.
Finally, man.
I know.
It took you a while.
It's because Pal World just interrupted my flow.
Yeah, it took you a while before Pal World came out, so...
Yeah, but that's because I'm streaming it. If I was just playing it offline...
Yeah, okay. Okay, I give you that.
Yeah.
I give you that. All right, good stuff. Let's see what the community has been playing. H. Julia has been playing also Pal World. Yeah, like a lot of people, man. Like my entire friends list is full with people playing it. But still, FOMO has not caught on to me. Usually...
It's a good job, really. It's a good job. Because if it did, and you liked it, I can see you being stuck on that game.
Yeah.
Like, even Jay Fonzarelli's got 1,000 on there now.
Oh. Yeah. See, I'm still like... This combination that I keep hearing about, a mixture in between Pokemon and Arc.
Yeah. But with directions. But with directions. It's the key one.
Yeah,
Arc doesn't tell you what you need to do, where you need to go, or what the next objective is. This continuously gives you objectives.
Two games I don't enjoy, so I don't need the mixture out of the two, but
I'm
happy for everyone who's enjoying it.
It isn't turn-based Pokemon. Do you remember Arceus Legends, where you fight alongside?
Yeah.
It's like that.
No, I don't.
Fighting and they're fighting at the same time. So it's like having a companion instead. It's like just an open-world RPG with a companion.
I know what you're trying to do, man. You're trying to lure me in, but...
I am.
Man, tomorrow Suicide Squad is coming. Tomorrow Suicide Squad is coming out. So I'm waiting for that, man. Check Purchase. Yeah, let me finish the community off first. Check Purchase has played Resident Evil Remake, and he's waiting for Suicide Squad tomorrow. First of all, Resident Evil 4 is fantastic, and yeah, man, I can't wait for Suicide Squad. Boy Rush is still addicted to the finals.
Yes, he is. I see him on every day with Berserker this every day.
Yeah, and he keeps posting about it. So
yeah,
we know you're still addicted, man. Good stuff. Luke, our good friend Luke, is playing Prince of Persia and Suicide Squad. Oh, so he got like the premium edition, which got 3 days early access. I was cheap, man. I only pre-ordered the regular version, so I have to wait till tomorrow. What else? I'm sorry, the chat is jumping around here for me. Thanaros has been playing Redfall. And Drawn TJ has been playing Pal World and RoboCop and Call of Duty.
Nice.
It's good stuff, man. RoboCop is so good. And actually, RoboCop wins right now in the in the poll in the chat for gameplay today. So I just gonna keep that open for a few more minutes, and then we see. But RoboCop leads with 50%, man.
Nice.
Good stuff. So yeah, what have I been playing? I finished Prince of Persia, and I absolutely loved it. It is the best Metroidvania I have played since Ori.
Oh.
And it's just on point. Like the world is built in a very, very good way. You know, you get around real quick, you know exactly where to go back to once you got a certain power, and a lot of diversity in the environments. Some really challenging boss fights. Like there was one boss fight, like the third last boss, nearly made me rage quit. Like I hated that guy. But it was never like unfair to you, you know.
Right.
So and like the controls were just so spot on and felt so snappy and precise and like exactly what you want in a platforming Metroidvania game. So yeah, I really did enjoy that. Then I went back and booted up Starfield again. A new patch is out. We're gonna talk about that a little later. And actually, I started Diablo again. Diablo
Nice.
4 started with season 3. This time I went for a rogue character. A class I haven't played yet. And it's actually really good. Like also season 3 fixed a lot of the issues that they had in season 1. It was like it's really good, that you should try it again. So sorry. Yeah. But that was basically it, and I'm waiting eagerly for tomorrow. I cannot wait for Suicide Squad. I don't care what IGN thinks, man. I want to play that game. So
to be fair, and I've got to give that. To be fair, from what I've seen on the timeline, unless you're IGN, everybody else that's playing it, and I don't know whether or not they're just doing it to wind people up, but everybody else, if they're genuine, seem to be having a good time with the game.
I do agree. I do agree. I've not seen one, like you said, genuine gamer playing it saying he's not enjoying it. So I really can't wait. But yeah, Dutch, let us get into some actual topics. But first, we need to see what gameplay won, and it's still RoboCop. I'm gonna close the poll. And for today, we are going to watch. I actually prepared Prince of Persia because I thought that's going to win.
I didn't prepare anything, so unfortunately, my guys are going to be watching some Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. So I hope they enjoy that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So there we go. Gameplay is switched, and we can get into some actual topics. And I mean, the biggest news thing of this week probably is the state of play, whether you liked it or not. There was a lot actually in there. So we're going to talk about some of the games. But first, Dutch, I wanted to ask you something. Obviously, you've watched it, and it's like I was surprised. Usually, like our good old Chimbo came out there, and now Herman Holst is the face of these state of plays. What did you think about that? He's not CEO. He's just head of PlayStation Studios. But yeah, he was the face now.
Good.
What did you think of that, man?
Good. He's from Guerrilla originally. He knows about the games. He actually plays games. He enjoys games. He's a creative mind. He's enthusiastic about it. The reason I hated Jim Ryan being front and center was because he was just a corporate suit. He didn't actually care about what was presented. He didn't look like he
Yep.
cared about what was presented, and you didn't get the enthusiasm when he was presenting the games. He wasn't like super enthusiastic. He was just like more of a as if
Yeah.
he was presenting to shareholders. Now these aren't what E3 used to be, where you used to present to shareholders, and he would have been perfectly suited for that when E3 was first being founded. But not today. Not when these events are for the fans, not for the shareholders, to show the fans and the community what's coming up. You want somebody like your Sarah Bond or your Herman Hulst or along those lines to present it because they're enthusiastic, they're connected to the studios, they know exactly what they want, and they play games. Ultimately, that's what you want, somebody who plays games to talk about games at a game event.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
do
I'm
agree.
glad he's there. Hopefully, regardless of who they get in as CEO of PlayStation, he remains the face, or at least if he isn't always the face, somebody that is very close to him or somebody that works with the studios, or maybe he's to do a dev direct type thing in the future where if Sony Santa Monica's on stage and you get Corey doing his bit and kind of talking about his game, or, that's the kind of stuff I'd love to see from them. But ultimately, having Herman Hulst front and center is definitely a much better fit than Jim Ryan.
Yeah. I do agree there, but to be fair, it doesn't take much to be a better
No, it
fit. Because Jim just like you said, he's a corporate guy. He's a manager kind of guy, and presenting games has to do with passion. It has to do with excitement for the art that are video games, and he just never brought that across. Herman definitely is more authentic in that regard. He was the head of what's this
Gorilla.
studio of Horizon Gorilla. Thank you. And obviously he's much better connected to gaming.
Yeah.
What they are still missing though is, in my opinion, like some executive that does connect with the community, because none of the PlayStation, outside maybe of Shuhei, but no other Xbox executive, not even Herman Hulst, like is connecting with fans on social media channels in public events. This is just lacking, and so there's still this kind of disconnect. So yeah, he's definitely like a better face for them than Jim was, more authentic face. But still, I would really wish that some of the representatives of the brand actually try to connect with the community.
Yeah. I
And
think like Yoshi's probably the closest to that. Yoshi
yeah,
interacts.
definitely. Like I said, Shuhei is the one exception that proves the rule over there.
Yeah.
But other than him, and they obviously demoted him a
Yeah.
couple of years ago.
Probably
So
for that, to be honest. How dare you interact with the community?
how can you express your passion for gaming? It's like, what, and I think that is definitely one thing that the executives over there at Xbox do better. Like obviously they are all managers, like the Sarah Bonds, the Matt Booties, the Phil Spencer. You're not gonna be part of the board of management of
Yeah.
the most valuable company in the world
Yeah.
without being like a ruthless, backstabbing manager kind of guy. But at least he's trying to connect with the community, and all of the bigger faces over there try to do that, Sarah Bond and so on, and that makes the brand authentic. And I appreciate that, because you can tell that, yes, even though being these like hard ass managers, they still love what they do. That comes across, and that comes across in an authentic way, and you believe them that they are excited about the product that they are trying to sell. And that's the one thing that I'm really missing over there at PlayStation. Yeah. But Dutch, we are not here to talk about Herman's face. We are here to talk about the game. So, what did you think before we go into some of the specifics? What did you think in general of this state of play? Good, not so good. Where would you rate it, man?
When it comes to games that I'm interested in, it was kind of like a 6 or 6.5 out of 10. And that's just games I'm interested in. I can understand if people that are highly interested in, and I say this with Final Fantasy on screen, but Final Fantasy is my outlier because I've grew up on that game. But in general, Japanese or Asian games aren't my bag. Like, I'm not a big Yakuza fan. I'm like, I've Like a Dragon was as close as you'll get me to that franchise. Otherwise, I don't play those games. I'm not a Persona fan. I'm gonna try out Persona 3 Reloaded. But ultimately, I'm not generically a Persona fan. I don't like these over-the-top Japanesey manga type games. I just don't enjoy those kind of games. It's just a little bit too uwu for me. It's always like schoolgirls in uniforms and things. I'm like, this is just weird.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
not for
totally
me.
with you. I like, yeah, not a Persona kind of fan. You know, these anime looking characters with the big eyes, and
it's like I say, like
it's
there's outliers because of course we both love Final Fantasy, and that's
yeah,
yeah,
we do.
But-
I actually love JRPGs.
yeah.
And obviously they all have that kind of a touch to it, but there's a very big difference between the art style of a Final Fantasy or
Kingdom Hearts or something like that.
Kingdom Hearts, yeah, something like that. Nier Automata, you know, there's a very big difference between
Western
those kind of games and the
JRPGs.
Persona.
What I would class as Western JRPGs and Japanese RPGs, like traditional Japanese RPGs. And those are not for me. They're just not.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like I say, for those who are interested in them, great. But for what I saw ultimately, Stellar Blade looked okay. It looked to me like a cross between Nier Automata and Scarlet Nexus.
Okay.
That was the feel I got from it. Graphically, I don't think it was anything special. From a gameplay perspective, it was just another hack and slash. So there wasn't anything that wasn't something that's going to wow me and like, oh yeah, I really need to play that. It looked cool, but I'm not going to rush out to buy it.
That's Stellar Blade was like the only one that I thought like actually okay, that's I just say it was the best game of the show for me personally. It's not like I'm super duper hyped for it.
Yeah.
That's not, but I thought like, okay, I love Final Fantasy, and this is like a Final Fantasy meets Bayonetta, you know. So I thought this was the best out of these games that they have shown. It's not like, again, yeah, I need to get that day one and I'm gonna take a day off from work, and no, absolutely that's not it. But I thought the combat looked fun, like very fluent, and obviously sometimes a good hack and slash can be a lot of fun. So
after that you had Rise of the Ronin, which to me, and I hope, and this is one thing that I think is going to catch a few people off guard, being Team Ninja means it's going to me it ultimately looked like Sekiro but open world, and graphically it didn't look any better than Sekiro.
Oh, actually I thought it looked worse. It looked like a clunky like a clunky Sekiro.
But ultimately,
so I was hoping for a little bit more out of it. It wasn't that it did look bad by any stretch of the means, but I was hoping like it looks a little bit more polished, so close to launch.
Yeah.
And I mean, Rise of Ronin will have a very hard time. Let's be real here. It comes out the same day like Dragon's Dogma 2, and I I could see, like, in recent years we had one of these smash out hits like Elden Ring. Nobody expected it to be that successful. Like Hogwarts, we knew Harry Potter will do fine, but it's not this. And with Dragon Dogma, I could see that being one of these smash out hits of this year. And it will take over. And Rise of Ronin is something you will barely see anyone talk about that game.
Yeah, I think the one thing is, and again, if you just take if you know Team Ninja, then you know this game is going to be a Souls-like game. But I think people going into Rise of the Ronin assuming it's going to be a Ghost of Tsushima kind of game by Team Ninja, then I think they'll be. I don't think they'll be disappointed. But ultimately, I think this game is going to be significantly more difficult than a lot of people will expect because it is a Souls kind of game.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people will
true.
go into it hoping it's going to be more of a Ghost of Tsushima when it's going to be significantly more difficult. And I don't want to come in and play a game that I'm going to just be stressed at when I've been at work all day. So I'd rather not come in and play a Souls game at the end. Ultimately, it's probably going to be a great game for people who like those kind of games, but again, not for me. But it didn't, again, graphically, it didn't do anything to jump out. Mechanically, it didn't do anything that the genre hasn't done before. It was just another Souls-like, but this time Japanese style, a bit like Sekiro. Souls game.
Yeah. That's true. All right.
Tell you what did look good.
Sonic. What did you think about Sonic Shadow Generation?
Yes, Sonic, the first multi-plat of the evening. Sonic Generations. I forgot what the full name of it is. The new Sonic Generations. What's the full name?
It's Sonic Shadow Generation.
Sonic Shadow Generations, because of course they've included Shadow.
Yeah,
it looks cool. It'd probably be significantly cooler for Sonic fans like Vinny Boy. I'm not rushing out to buy another Sonic. The last time I bought Sonic was Frontiers, and I was significantly let down. Granted, it's the best type of the Sonic game because it's the platform and running fast speed type of.
Yeah.
Okay, it'll be fun in short bursts, but again, I've got so many more things to play that I simply won't fit it in. It's cool. Granted, I'm happy for the Sega fans and the Sonic fans. Good for you. But
see, I've never been like such a super diehard Sonic fan. I mean, in the Genesis days, it was like, yeah, they were good, but they didn't particularly stand out to me. So I don't have that much nostalgia for the brand. It's not that they are bad, but then over recent years, I kind of got burned out because they were putting out Sonic games like every other year, and most of them really didn't do much.
Yeah.
This one looked great though. And our household is right now a little bit in the Sonic fever because my kids just watched a couple of weeks ago, both of the Sonic movies for the first time.
Jim Carrey's the perfect Dr. Eggman as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And now they are kind of like in the Sonic fever, and so maybe I will be getting it. I don't know yet, but let's see.
If the kids enjoy it, and ultimately I think the kids will enjoy it.
Yeah,
may as well. Why not?
Exactly.
Tell you what did look great though. Judas.
Tell me.
Judas.
Yeah. I've been seeing who said it in the chat. I'm sorry, I lost it. Someone in the chat said when I said for me it was Stellar Blade was the best game so far. Someone else said that was Judas for him. Listen, it looked really good. I can't say anything other than that. The thing is, and it's my guilty gamer confession, I've never played BioShock.
I know, that's very strange, I would have thought you of all people.
I know.
Have you not thought about going back and playing at least Bioshock Infinite?
I have that trilogy.
do
You
I.
know, there is this.
Yeah.
I own it. I actually own it. Bought it in a sale a couple of years ago, and I thought like, yeah, it's now I own it. I have to play it at some point. I don't know why actually. The thing was at the time when the first came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had so many other games to play. Like I was super hardcore into Mass Effect, and
Yeah.
Halo came out that year, and was like, no, I can't play it right now. And so it got like, okay, I will get to it eventually. And out of this eventually, suddenly the second came out, and everyone was like, oh, it's crazy good. And I was like, ah, man, I need to go back and play the first one. But then some other shit came out, and then this is how the years went by. And now I just look back, and I'm like, I don't know. Should I go back and play like at 10, 15? How old is Bioshock now? 15 years almost?
Today, you know, they still hold up very well today.
I know. People keep telling me I should play it. But then I look, man, listen, tomorrow Suicide Squad comes out. And now, am I going to go back and play a 15-year-old game, or the new hot shit that I'm super looking forward to?
How about wait for it, because I know you've got it on your Xbox. Wait for it on sale to put it on your Ally. And the next time you're away, have it as one of your games to play through when you're away. That sounds like a good middle ground.
It sounds, but then I boot up my Ally, and I still
don't turn on The Witcher.
Sea of Stars on there, which I'm super enjoying, and then I'm playing a lot of Starfield on the Ally.
Uninstall Starfield.
At least I can play it at 60 on the Ally. And then it's like I know I should play it at some point, because everyone keeps telling me how amazing they are. And I mean, if I look at them, I always think like, they look like a game I would enjoy. But since I have been missing out so many 15 years ago, I accepted it, man. It's like I accepted that I missed probably a great trilogy, and I'm fine with it. There's
no such thing as missed. It is there for you to play. You own it. It's entirely up to you.
I went through the 7 stages of grief.
Saying that, Judas is a new IP by the creators, so
yes,
you get to experience a new universe.
Absolutely, and I actually thought it looked really good.
Yeah.
They had these snippets of gameplay in there, and this it looks like Bioshock. Yeah, absolutely, and it looked really good, man. Maybe that's the game that will get me into it. I'm gonna play Judas, and then I will probably enjoy the hell out of it, and then
you'll want to go back and play the others. Yeah,
maybe you never know, man. You never know.
Yeah.
Kevin Levin, the Bioshock creator, is actually making it, right?
He is. So, yeah. The original guys are making it.
And it's announced as a multiplayer. It comes out on everything.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
What did you think of it, man?
I thought it looked great. Again, it's a game. I think we've seen this game. I can't remember when the last time it is that we've seen Judas. When was it announced again? I vaguely remember it being announced and seeing the original trailer. But again, Bioshock was just a wonderful little world to go into, and everyone's obviously very fond of it. It's been a long time since I played. I even bought the remastered collection to go back and play. I turned it on for a little bit, and again, so many things were out at that time. I was like, right, I've got it again. After owning it years ago, I've got this nice remastered collection, so I'll play through again at some point. But because I've already played it years ago, I don't have the same thing as you, where I've never played it before. But Judas looks like a good evolution of that. Instead of being underwater, this is more like space and technology and things like that. So it's a little bit different, less of the kind of underwater steampunk vibes that got. And then of course you had Bioshock Infinite, which was more in the clouds. So yeah, it's a nice evolution of their concept, their ideas, where they're going with things. But No, I'm intrigued by it. They're always doing something a little bit different. They've got their own style, so yeah, it looked fantastic. It looked fantastic. I'm gonna definitely it's one on the list to pick up when it releases.
They didn't give a release window though.
They didn't.
Said,
Nope.
no. It might be a while before you will be able to play it. Actually,
I don't mind. I don't because there's many other things that we need to play before that.
yeah.
Another game.
So
Yep. Go on.
yeah, I was also like another game. I know you're super hyped for.
Yep.
Foam Stars.
We're all gonna get foamy together.
Nobody's going to play that game, man. Nobody.
No, it's a good thing they're putting that into. It's a good thing they're putting it into PS Plus, because that would have been overlooked. And I've said this before. I don't know why they're making a game like Splatoon, because those games outside of Nintendo don't work. They don't work. On any other platform other than Nintendo, those games do not do well at all.
Agreed.
Within a week, that game Foam Stars will be dead.
Yeah, I agree.
Dead and buried. I don't know. To be honest, I honestly don't know why Square Enix even contemplated making this game. I don't understand the thought. Like, with all of the things that they've got potential of making and have done very well at, this is such a different avenue to go down for Square Enix. Like, it makes no sense. Like, why would you, with all of your catalogue of IP, make a Splatoon clone?
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, chasing the success. Yeah, they were probably just looking at it like, okay, which games are super successful right now? And then they've seen, oh, there's Splatoon over there on the Nintendo, and nobody is trying to get into that space. And then they thought just they can have a piece of that cake. But yeah, like you said, I don't think Splatoon. Listen, Splatoon would, if you would release the exact same game, Splatoon on one of the other consoles, PlayStation or Xbox or on PC, it would not even do. Not even remotely do the same numbers than they do.
I don't think it would even
because
across multiple platforms. I don't think it would do 1 million.
Yeah, Max. Listen, the thing is why Splatoon works, and actually Splatoon is a fun little game. But the problem is that Nintendo really doesn't have anything else that can be like
a
they don't have
game,
Call of Duties.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have those yet. Yes, it's true. But they don't really have that many multiplayer games. Yes, you can play Mario Kart online, but that's about it. And so obviously, having such a competitive shooter-esque kind of game, you know, can be successful, but that's only possible on the Nintendo console and on nothing else. So yeah,
if this was created by an indie developer, I would feel sorry for them. But because it's created by Square Enix, I have no sympathy for the game not doing well. I don't know why they opted to make this thing in the first place. I really don't. They should have really understood the market as a whole. This game would simply not perform on regular consoles. The only reason, like you say, Splatoon is popular is because Nintendo have nothing else multiplayer-wise worthy of playing outside of Mario Kart and Splatoon. And what's that other one where you create a home in an island and all that malark?
Animal Crossing.
Yeah, that's it. They're the only real Pokemon, the newest Pokemon, but up until this new Pokemon, that wasn't multiplayer either.
Yeah, and that's exactly the thing, yeah. So, but let us talk about some other game.
Yes, because there is another multi-plat game that's on there that we've seen plenty of, but we got another showing again, and it still looked fantastic. Dragon's Dogma 2.
True.
Are you hyped for it?
Absolutely. I totally forgot that it was in there. Right. Now I have to correct my earlier statement about Stellar Blade. Why didn't I put it in my list? Like I wrote down a list and I didn't put in
You probably
Dragon's
just thought,
Dogma.
I've
Why?
seen Dragon's Dogma before, I'm not writing that down.
I listened. I didn't watch it live because it was late yesterday evening here in Germany when they aired it. So I watched it this morning, and I got like interrupted 7 times because of phone calls from work.
Yeah.
And it must have been probably because of that that I forgot to write it down. So, listen, Dragon's Dogma. I'm super hyped for it. I'm honestly like, if you do enjoy high fantasy action RPGs, everyone should who it does enjoy high fantasy action RPGs should have a very close look at this game, because Dragon's Dogma, the first one, and it looks like they've improved the second one on every aspect that made the first one great. Dragon's Dogma 1 was not your average high fantasy action RPG. They did so many things so special, you know, like for instance, when it got turned night during Dragon's Dogma, it's not like in your regular game when it's night, where simply like the skybox turns darker and everything gets like a bluish shadow. It's night, bro, and and the night is full of horrors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like seriously, it changes the gameplay. Like it's a very different game whether you play during day or the night. Kind of similar like Dying Light or something, yeah, where you have like very different gameplay elements during day and night. Then you have like very unique way to level up your character.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it's still an RPG and you level up your character and everything, but they have figured out a very unique way to do that. And also the way how the story is told and progresses, very, very unique way. You have to kind of play it to understand what I mean, but it does not feel like your average Joe high fantasy action RPG. It's like and that's what made this game so special. And with the second one, they have it. At least it looks like they have improved upon all those things and made it bigger, better, more polished. And I cannot wait for it. And I said it earlier, man. I think Dragon's Dogma has the potential to be one of these, smash out hits.
Yeah.
Where just it will take over the gaming world, and everyone is gonna play it, and everyone's gonna talk about it and love it, and nobody had it on their radar. Like that, I truly think that the Dragon's Dogma has the potential to be that game this year.
This is the second game this year of a franchise that I've never played, and I'll be picking up for the first time. Obviously I haven't played the Mana series, so Visions of Mana will be the first Mana game I play. And I'm going just solely on the recommendations of people that love that series as to why I should pick it up, so I'm doing that. So I'll give it a chance. And likewise, Dragon's Dogma, I've only heard good things about Dragon's Dogma 1, so based on recommendations of friends, I'll pick Dragon's Dogma 2 up and give that a try, and hopefully I'll love it. But I think the only thing, and obviously it's in my chat as well, the only thing that's kind of concerning people at the moment is this 30 frames per second thing, and some areas going below 30 on Dragon's Dogma 2. So my stance, and I've said this before, and I understand everyone's different and everyone has kind of motion sickness at lower frames or whatever it is that they deal with. But for me, 30 frames or whatever doesn't really bother me if it's a single player game. if it was a multiplayer game, then I would be more fussed. Because it's single player, I'm not really that bothered. I'll still play it. Yes, I'd probably prefer it if it was smoother and I had a nice quality, all bells and whistles 60 frames mode, but ultimately I'll still play it being single player. If it was multiplayer, though, it would be a different story. Or if I was mainly multiplayer, it would be a different story. I'd probably have an issue with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately, it is going. A lot of people are going to be disheartened by the fact that there isn't a 60 frames mode there, and it is 30 frames. So outside of that, though, game looks fantastic. Graphically looks really good, and I'm intrigued by it.
Let me touch it on the 30 versus 60
Yes.
thing real quick. See, I do get your train of thought, and I understand, and I'm definitely with you. 60 in a multiplayer game, obviously, more important than in a single player game, but still, we are not watching movies. We are playing games, and we are interacting with those games.
Yeah.
And the responsiveness and the fluidity and the snappiness of 60 frames or more are simply fundamentally or changing your experience with an interactive medium like a video game. And I think we have played 30 FPS games for many generations now. And this generation was sold to us by now we are finally getting 60 on consoles. And we are back to this point where almost every major release comes out and is playing, and we're playing it at 30 again.
Yep.
And it's going to continue down this road. It will, the more Unreal 5 games we're getting, the more advanced the graphics are getting over the next couple of years, we will see even more 30 FPS games on consoles again. It's just what it is, and I don't like it. I really don't like it, because this was like the whole selling point of this generation. We are finally there. Console gamers get to experience 30 FPS, 60 FPS on consoles, even 120 frames on consoles.
Yeah.
And I just finished Prince of Persia at 120 frames, and it felt awesome. It just felt really, really good to play that game. And that's simply the difference. So I can't say that I'm not bothered by a single player game. I do get your train of thought. Yes, since you are not in a competitive space,
Yeah.
You get used to 30 FPS, and after playing a 30 FPS games for a couple of hours, you kind of getting used to that again, and then it doesn't feel like the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
But it's just, yeah.
I think it's just because, and again, I think mainly for yourself, because you're very much a chap that, for the most part, when he's playing a game, he only plays one game and then plays that till completion.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm a chap that has, like, on the regular, is probably playing 6 games of varying graphical differences and performance, and so the level of, like, sometimes I'll be playing like a 60 or 120 frames game, the next day I'll be playing at 30 frames, the next time I'll be playing this, the next. It's like all over the shop, the amount of games I'm usually juggling 5 or 6 games at any one time, depending on what mood I'm in. So I think that's why I'm not as fussed if a game is 30 frames or 60 frames or 120 frames, is because I'm just that used to juggling that many different types of things at any one time, that, like, performance being different, and or maybe my perception of the difference between performance isn't as sharp as other people's is, because of that. I don't know. It might just be I'm just used to it.
Yeah, see, and I don't want to be used to it anymore.
Yeah.
I've been used to it for 40 years now, you know? Actually,
I
not
completely agree
because
to it. I
way
completely
back.
agree. We were
Listen,
sold. Essentially
we
what
were
was
sold
meant to
something
be.
else.
Yeah.
And we had the time during the NES. A lot of the NES games ran at higher frames than 30. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is like only when we entered the 64-bit era, it was like when we started to see like almost every game on console ran at 30. Yeah. Um, but and even there on the N64 and PS1, we still had a couple of games that ran at 60, you know. And now we had the Xbox One, PS4 generation, and they tried to sell us these mid-gen upgrades to get like higher resolutions. 4K was the thing, the selling point of that console. And we were like, okay, cool. Yeah, we just have all these new TVs now that have higher res anyway, so it's awesome to have that. And then they sold us the Xbox Series X and the PS5 to do like finally you there. You get to play at 60, 120 frames. Yeah, PS5 already had the 8K printed on the box and everything, you know. And now we're here sitting there 4 years or 3.5 years into the generation, and like every other game that comes out, 30. Yeah, get to play Starfield at 30, Alan Wake at 30. We're going to play Hellblade at 30, and now we're playing Dragon's Dogma at 30, and you know the list goes on. And even if they have the performance mode, like Avatar, yeah, probably the best looking game of this gen, it actually had a performance mode at 60 on consoles,
But it
was
looked
like
terrible.
it looked like blurry as fuck. I was like, oh Jesus, like my eyes hurt.
Yeah.
And I didn't buy a new TV with the beginning of this generation to play my games at 30. For that I sold my old Samsung, you know. But if I would have known that I would never experience any game running at 120, I wouldn't have sold my TV and got a new one, actually. And I know you remember that 2-3 years ago, everyone went out and got the LGs, C1, CX, and whatnot. Yeah, and to play those games at this high fidelity and high frame rates. Yeah, and I don't feel like this generation has delivered us that. Yeah, it actually started that way. Like, you know, Assassin's Creed Valhalla came out basically along with the consoles, and we played it at 60. Beautiful. And all those games came out, and then suddenly games started to come out not offering performance modes anymore. And it's only going to get worse as the generation continues. Hence, we need the mid-gen upgrade. I stand by that. We need it.
I mean, we'll pick it up anyway, even if we don't need it. You know what we're like.
True that.
Yeah.
True that.
Yeah.
Although I must admit, I was hoping, like, we know that state of plays are usually not the kind of place where you know, like, big announcements are made. Usually there are big updates on already announced games, but the big announcements are not made during the state of play. And still, I was hoping, like, okay, show me at least one game that tells me, okay, Boxenberger, go out and buy the PS5 Pro this fall.
Yeah.
You know, and definitely nothing in there. But
I want to touch on a
I'm
game
not
that
sure.
wasn't there.
Yeah, please.
Concord.
Right.
It's meant to be out
Didn't
this year.
it get a release window for this year? Or was it 25?
Nope, 24. It was the only first-party game that was meant to be releasing this year.
So why do you think it wasn't there?
Because it's not releasing in 2024. I think,
Ooh,
like they've
surprise.
done before, with God of War and other games around the start of the gen where they pretended it was releasing in 1 year to get people to buy the console.
Yeah.
I think in order to convince people to have faith in PlayStation for 2024, beyond the second party deals they've got lined up, like Rebirth, okay, we'll say Concord's coming out in 2024, knowing full well that game is not coming out in 2024. Like, the reveal trailer of it was just a CGI trailer. They hadn't had any further updates on it, no gameplay trailers. You don't know what the game is. All you've been told is what it's meant to be. You don't know how it looks, how it plays. You don't know anything about it, really. And it's meant to be coming out the latter part of this year. And then they've already announced the only other state of play that they've got coming anytime soon is the Rebirth one next month. And that's it.
True that.
So outside of what are they planning on doing the release date and gameplay reveal in June? Because I think that's far too short for people to go, yeah, absolutely, I'm going to invest in this game that you've only just shown one gameplay footage of, and it's releasing in 3 months. Nah.
I mean, I don't think so, but I've seen people bring up the argument that, well, with the PS5 Pro launching at this holiday season, they might hold, some of the game reveals off.
I think that's wishful thinking, personally.
I do agree. I mean, like, I could see where they're coming from. Of course, let's assume that they will do another showcase this June. Yeah, let's assume that. Obviously, it would make sense to reveal the PS5 Pro there and then show a couple of these games that people are waiting for, running on the PS5 Pro with higher graphical settings, basically. And then reveal your Naughty Dog game and your Guerrilla game and your Ghost of Tsushima 2 and all those kind of things. But on the other side, I am with you. If I just think that Sony hasn't had the leadership that they would have needed, and that they are now to guide them through the pandemic years, because that's when you had to greenlight and set things in motion to have games in 24, 25, 26. And I don't think that they had the leadership at the time. They still don't really have it. Jim is out now, but who's running the show now? And
I thought, isn't Jim out is it not April?
I thought he left end of 23. Really? Is he still here till April?
Yeah, I think. Well, no, unless because they announced. I think he was originally meant to be till April, but then he announced the head of.
I thought that
they
that
changed
he's out
the finance guy and the finance guy.
Yeah, the finance guy from the mother company till April. I think that's.
I think the original plan was to have him in place till April and find a successor in the meantime, but instead they got the finance guy in.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I do see where this thought is coming from, and you could bring up the same for Concord. If Concord is an October game and you announce it in June, of course you could do that. But yeah, I wouldn't put my hopes in that bass kid. My what's the phrase I'm looking for? Anyway,
all your eggs in that basket. Yeah, I agree.
All the eggs in the basket, right?
I simply don't think it's a 24 game. I think it's a 25 game, at least. Might even be later.
Yeah,
it's meant to be a multiplayer kind of semi games as a service game. It's a first person shooter or a third person shooter or something along those lines. Again, we don't know much about it or anything about it, to be honest, apart from what they've told us the game genre is. So, if it is meant to be there's a lot of explaining to do around the game, the universe, show the gameplay. If the gameplay initially doesn't show well, then they would have really little to no choice than delay it to get it in a position where people do look at it and look at it favorably, because ultimately you don't want to show. We've seen that with Xbox where they've shown a game off and the communities went, doesn't look good, so they've delayed it. We saw that with essentially what was with Avowed. Everyone was complaining that it didn't look polished and didn't look X, Y, and Z, and then the next showing looks fantastic. We saw that with Halo Infinite. People looked at the game and said gameplay looks fun, but the graphics look terrible. So they delayed it and updated the graphics. And granted, the graphics still aren't anything to shout home about, but they're significantly better than what they originally revealed.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely,
that could very well happen with Concord, or PlayStation could just fire it out and leave it to die. But hopefully they don't do that. But that was their one and only first-person game for this year.
Yeah.
So it was a surprise that they didn't show this game. I'm not bothered if a state of play is not meant to be for first party these days, and it's meant to be second party or whatever. But state of plays started off showing off your first party game that was coming out soon, and then they've morphed state of play into this second party, third party stream that everyone's used to now. And they've never really improved significantly since. They've always been kind of run of the mill, nothing substantial. So yeah, a bit disappointed that we didn't see Concord there, and because of that, and I said if we don't see it, I highly doubt that game's a 24 game. I think it's intentional misadvertising again.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. So let's see. Silent Hill was in there, actually, with 2 games. Yeah,
It was, yes.
Silent Hill. The Silent Hill, the short message.
The demo.
It's free to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Out now. And then they've shown Silent Hill 2, the remake. What did you think of that, man?
When before they told us that it was Silent Hill short message, I thought, oh my god, they're ruining Silent Hill 2. Who's this character?
Yeah.
What is this place? I hope this isn't Silent Hill 2, because this has got nothing to do with Silent Hill 2. This isn't Silent Hill 2. What are they doing? What a mess. And then thankfully they said it's free to play demo out now. It's Silent Hill, the short message. I was like, thank God for that. And then they showed Silent Hill 2, Bloober Team. And it looks alright. But does it have the creepiness of the original game? No. I think for the trailer that they showed, and this is personal preference, but that was completely the wrong. It's meant to be a horror game with really creepy stuff going on, and they went for some kind of weird Japanesey rock music over the top of the trailer that kind of completely changed the atmosphere of the game to something that was more of an action game. I'm like,
yeah,
that's not what Silent Hill is. Silent Hill's meant to be like the Resident Evil, essentially, but set in Silent Hills, and it's an investigative game where you go and find out what is happening in Silent Hill, and you go and search for this missing person, and the trailer was just off. Graphically, it was okay. Nothing fantastic though.
I mean, it's Bloober, right? So
yeah, but I
Mm.
thought, but even saying that, I thought what was the one we played earlier in the gym, the medium? I thought the medium graphically was nicer.
The medium.
I thought the medium looked nicer.
But then you have to say, really, the medium had this fixed camera, and you had to move from frame to frame, basically. Very different thing than what they're trying to do there with Silent Hill. But I do agree, nothing super special.
Yeah.
Arthur One in the chat says he didn't enjoy the combat, and I do agree there.
I've heard that a lot. It reminded me just specifically of just Resident Evil 4, like combat wise, and Resident Evil 4's combat's okay, but it's still modern day. It's outdated, way outdated. It's like It's you wouldn't choose to
Yeah.
have that combat style in a game outside of Resident Evil 4 remake.
I mean, the combat in Resident Evil 4 remake, I thought it was perfect because this is what makes the combat in Resident Evil so
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It
is
is like
because it doesn't feel like you are, this gunslinging
yeah,
superhero kind of guy,
yeah,
and you have to really be careful with the ammunition, and because the combat is slow and because it feels like okay, yeah, because it is slow. I think slow is the best description. That makes up for the or puts into this horror segment when you have like, the zombies coming at you, or the villagers or whatnot, and you simply cannot mow them all down with,
Yeah.
but you have to really like, oh shit, this is part of the experience. But with Silent Hill, it looks like a knockoff version of the combat we have in games like a Skyrim or so,
yeah, it looked funky.
and I don't think, yeah, and I don't think that yeah, it looked really helpful.
I just think,
and I do agree.
it just lacks atmosphere. It doesn't lack it. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like
This horror, I
Yeah.
totally agree there. The things they have shown are like, oh, okay, this is an action game now,
yeah,
but and you're killing all these monsters, and that's actually not the original game experience,
yeah.
because Silent Hill is like still the only Kojima game I ever enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And it was you were ultimately you were trying your level best to avoid confrontation at any possible thing, because you were like, especially with the nurses in the rooms and things like that, you'd be like, right, you can't disturb them because if I do, they're all going to attack and I'm dead. And then like you had the looming threat of Pyramid Head
yeah,
at all times, and then you had like everything was out there to kill you, and you're not meant to be. You're not meant to be fighting all of the time, and this portrayed like they've changed it so that you're essentially just gunning everything down or fighting continuously. It's meant to be
Yeah.
more of a like sneak around and try to avoid it. If you have to fight, then fight. But ultimately, it's a horror game, and you need to try and avoid conflict where you can, otherwise you'll
Yeah.
die.
yeah, agree.
You're like you say, you're like a private investigator slash like husband going to search for what happened to your wife, and you're not just some random copper that is like full of ammunition or experience. So yeah, it
Yeah.
felt off. It felt off.
It did. So what else did we have? We had a couple of VR games, and the one that stood out, obviously, I think, is Metro Awakening.
Yes,
And
it was the nicest.
I don't know
looking
about
VR
you.
game there.
It looks Metro always looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
2023, 2033. So looked incredible at its release, and to this day, Metro Exodus, probably one of the best looking consoles on this gen, especially with the ray tracing 60 FPS patch, bro. Yeah, it Metro technically, on a technical level, always great, and I love the series. Honestly, fantastic shooters that have this great atmosphere combined with the lighter horror elements, which granted they didn't have that many horror elements in Metro Exodus, but they were definitely there in last Redux and Last Light, and it is. I love Metro, so I wish that game was not a VR game, because I'm not into VR. So I don't know how you feel, man, but I wish that this was like a proper, Metro.
I think it won't be long until we see a proper Metro.
You think so?
Yeah. It's how long ago is it?
I
Since
mean,
the last...
Stalker is coming out soon, so we good on that end.
Exactly. But how long has it been since the last one? It has been a while since Exodus come out.
when
It's at
was
least 3 or
Exodus? I
4
think
years now.
Exodus was 2019.
Yeah, so go almost 5 years then.
Yeah.
See?
Hang on. Exodus release was 2019. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I hope you're right, man. I'd love to see a new Metro. Doesn't have to be this year, you know. This year we get Stalker, which is in that vein, you know, a similar like setting. But then a Stalker is like more, you know, open world. You actually have to make decisions in the story. You have very different endings that can come out, and you don't have that in Metro. Metro is a way more linear experience, but still, can't wait for Stalker, by the way. So what else? Yeah, well then, right. Kojima was on in that state of play, and I think obviously there are a lot of Kojima fans out there for some reason. I don't get why, but there are a lot of fans out there, and for those, it was of course cool to see Death Stranding, Death Stranding 2. They've shown a lot of it, actually. So, lengthy trailer, like everything in that game. But yeah, you can hear it. I'm really no Kojima fan. I don't like his games. I don't like. I want to play a game. I don't want to watch a movie. And these extensive cutscenes, it's just super boring. I tried to play Death Stranding because it looked like something okay, different enough from his other games, but then I fell asleep in the first hour of the game twice. And
I gave it longer than
just...
that. I even streamed it, to be fair. I streamed it when I was playing it on PC. Before I played it on... I still haven't played it on PlayStation, actually. I've played probably about 6-7 hours of it on PC, and I do need to get back into it. It does get better, but the fact it takes 7 hours to start getting better is why I understand how people fall off it. Because for the first few hours, you're literally going back and forwards between the first couple of bases, delivering parcels, falling down, using people's ladders and bridges to get places and ropes, and losing things and learning how to balance and learn how to go quickly when you've got a ton of items on top of you. And like, there's nothing substantial happens in that first 4 or 5 hours. Only after that, when you start coming across the ghosts, and you start kind of getting and you get the baby attached to you with your kind of ghost kind of radar, and then you start getting blood bombs and things. Then it starts getting more as like a stealth kind of tactical game, where you've got to kind of run around and figure out how to kind of avoid these puddled areas and how to avoid the go. That's when it becomes intriguing and a little bit more tense. But the fact that it takes long to get there, and you've still got to do the same things and deliver parcels whilst you're trying to avoid these people in the same time and connect these things I can understand why people dipped off it. The good news is Death Stranding 2 looks far more action-packed. It looks far more focused on action than it is delivering items and stuff now. So I think he's kind of... Okay, stage 1 was connecting everything together. Stage 2 of Death Stranding is an entirely different beast altogether. You no longer... There's probably still going to be some form of connecting and traversing and community-based stuff because that's what the first one was built on. And to be honest, is great because if you went into it now and you started a new world, you would have every community and every person's kind of assists to get around the world already built into that opening segment, so it will help you traverse a lot quicker. But if you were just starting out years ago when it first released, it didn't have any of that because no one had built anything yet, so there was nothing to help people. But I think the second one has a chance of more people being interested in it because I don't think it'll be heavily focused on the traversing and package carrying. I think it'll be more on the stealth, espionage, get around, like action, horror kind of thing he's going for there.
Okay.
Looks very intriguing.
Yeah,
Graphically looks phenomenal again.
Graphically, absolutely. The Decima engine from Guerrilla is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, Horizon, whether you like the game or not, Horizon Forbidden West, beautiful game.
Yeah.
And Death Stranding 2 running now, also on the Decima engine too. Absolutely. Technically, you can't argue. Beautiful game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I just don't like Kojima. I don't like his games. I don't like him. I think way overrated diva. And the games, Kojima games, I just don't see why people think that those are such great masterpieces.
Yeah.
The storytelling is always like weird, and it has nothing to do with like, oh, that's genius. It's just I think it's bad storytelling if nobody can follow the story, and the gameplay elements are uninspired. It's like, yeah, your average gameplay elements, nothing revolutionary in there, and for that reason, I'm just bored by his games. So yeah, they also announced another game that he will be working on after Death Stranding.
Yes, a
2.
tactical espionage game.
Espionage game.
You know what it is? I've got
You're
a
right.
feeling Kojima is secretly working. I think OD is his version, because he's mentioned it before. OD for Xbox is his version of Silent Hill. And Physic, or whatever it's called, this one, because he had the name on the board, the code name, he said is a tactical espionage game, and naturally he doesn't have the rights for Silent Hill to work on Silent Hills to finish that project off, and he doesn't
True.
have the rights to work on Metal Gear anymore, so he can't work on that franchise. So instead, he's going to do what he wanted to do with both of those franchises, and OD is going to be Silent Hill, and this new game he's announced with PlayStation is going to be his new Metal Gear.
Yeah,
he said it's a
absolutely.
tactical espionage game, so that's exactly what I think. And he's already teased, like, he teased the Silent Hill door in the OD thing at the Game Awards, and all the people he's working on horror wise, that's obviously going to be a Silent Hill game for him. So this one is, in my eyes, especially when you mention tactical espionage, it's his Metal Gear.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I thought the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like you said, those are the spiritual successors of Silent Hill and Metal Gear, respectively.
Yeah.
One's going to come to PlayStation, the other one is going to come to Xbox, and yeah. So, what else? I think that's about it. Until Dawn is now coming to PC and PlayStation 5. But I think, yeah, there were a couple of smaller ones in there, like Fairy, some,
there was a vampire kind of ARPG survival game.
And a weird ass Godzilla game.
No, that wasn't. That was Dave the Diver with the Godzilla crossover.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because Dave the Diver's coming out on every platform now. It was just on Steam.
Okay, must have snoozed out there for a second, though.
Was it just on Steam? I'm sure it was. Or Nintendo, one of the two. But it's coming out on everything now. But yeah, that indie, non-indie game.
Yeah. And then they announced another state of play for February 16th that will be focused on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So
yep, and I'll be missing that.
Why?
I don't want to see any more of the game. The game comes out in 28 days.
Yeah, that's so true.
I've already seen it for people who missed it. If people haven't seen the Tokyo Game Show 45-minute gameplay premiere of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, then go and watch that. But I've already seen that plus other gameplay demos now, so I've seen about an hour's worth of the game. That's more than enough for me. I've seen the party system. I've seen the way that Sephiroth and Cloud do the synergy attacks. I've seen boss fights. I've seen multiple areas. I've seen the party systems, the characters, the world. I do
Yeah,
want. I don't want
I'm
to
already
see
sold
any
after
more.
the first one. I didn't have to see anything,
Yeah.
honestly. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's still kind of cool to get like a dedicated breakdown for those interested, and
Yeah.
I'll be watching it because I'm super excited for the game.
Oh,
But
so am I. I
yeah,
just don't want to spoil anything else. Like I feel I
spoil.
know enough now.
I get that. I get that. I
Yeah.
totally get that. All right, so that's basically the state of play.
Yeah.
You said earlier you would give it probably a 6, somewhere in that
6.5, maybe
ballpark.
a 7 out of push, but yeah, more along the
Yeah.
6.5 route. It was average.
So if I look, I mean, there were a lot of games in there. 16 games have been shown. So would again, Dragon's Dogma, obviously, but
Well, they touched
I've
on
seen a
Helldivers
lot
at the
of-
beginning, but it was literally brief. They were just like Helldivers.
Yeah, but-
okay, bye. And then
So Dragon's Dogma, obviously, and then Stellar Blade was the one that looked good, not like super, and the rest. Yeah, I've no interest in Death Stranding. I thought Rise of Ronin looked okay. Silent Hill 2, I don't know yet if they will be able to capture that magic, and I think that's probably and Judas, of course, yeah. Judas, which for me as someone who hasn't played Bioshock, yeah. So I don't know, nothing super special in there other than obviously Dragon's Dogma and but yeah, better than nothing because Sony has been awfully silent. They have been awfully silent. So, but if you compare it to the developer direct 2 weeks ago from Xbox, like we came out of that super hyped, yeah, indie looks fantastic, and we get Avowed looks
well,
phenomenal.
not only
now.
that, but there was only one game on that list with a release date.
No, hang on. They announced Stellar Blade April
Stellar Blade, release
26th.
Yeah, everything else didn't. It had wish list.
Rise of Ronin March 22nd. Dragon's Dogma March 22nd. But yeah, most of them. Foam Stars February 6th.
Yeah, but that's PS Plus. Like no one's bothering about that. We're talking every other major game on there.
Yeah.
Death Stranding 2, 2025. No month.
Yeah. So that's true. I mean, for the most part, yeah, most of those games only got like maximum windows, release windows. So yeah, okay, good. So let's move on from State of Play and talk about a couple of other news items. Let's get over to Xbox. What has been going on with Xbox? Really quick, man.
Yeah.
Before we get into some other Xbox news, Starfield just got its biggest update yet, with more than 100 like things they fixed. Mainly bug fixes, of course, but then they also improved the lighting and performance and things like that. And I actually went back and gave it a try again because I love Starfield. I truly do. And there was absolutely nothing I noticed. Nothing. I mean, probably if you do a comparison video, maybe you could see.
What did you try it on though? The Ally.
I played it on Xbox and Ally.
Okay.
Both. So game looks and runs exactly the same to me.
Yeah.
For them to hype it like, oh, biggest update, and this is like the big thing. I still wish and honestly, this is the one thing I would like to see them really do better is the post-launch support of this game. Because as much as I love Starfield, and I truly do, it was my game of the year 2023. They have, other than some patches that apparently fixed some bugs that I had never experienced, because this game, the bugs that I experienced are still in the game. Yeah, it's like they promised us city maps are coming. No updates there. They promised us an HDR improvement that we get to adjust like black levels, white points, and so on. We haven't seen anything like that. So I want those kind of, improvements in the game, and we have still no idea when to get there. They promised us that now in a regular cadence, starting with this patch that they just released. I think they said every 4 weeks or so they want to release a major update. But if it's the same like this one, okay, patch the game. But I want FSR 3. I want the city maps. I want the especially the HDR improved. Honestly, that annoys the hell out of me because if you fake it, you can do that. You can like adjust your TV settings, the game looks absolutely phenomenal, popping colors, great contrast. But if you have your regular TV settings that are optimized for everything else, colors just look washed out. Because the game is such a beautiful game. I don't know why this has no priority. And I mean, let's be real, the game has been out for when did it came out? September. So that's like good 4 months now, and we have not seen one update that actually brings anything that people want. I don't know. How do you feel about it, man?
I'm kind of near the end of there. Like I put Starfield down until the Shattered Space DLC drops out. So I'm hoping by that point, because none of these updates are going to pull me back into it. Just as nothing for the Redfall would pull me back into Redfall in terms of performance wise, because it needed much more than that in order to entice me to even think about trying that game again. With Starfield, I've already finished the game. I'm on New Game Plus. I've finished the vast majority of the side stuff that I could do. I had no real... With everything else that was coming out, I had no reason to continue playing it at that point. And I still don't have a reason to go back. Even with this little upgrade, there's still no reason for me to go back and play it again before Shattered Space arrives. And that's meant to be the first quarter. So we haven't heard anything about it. So until they reveal that, that could be first half, that could be second half. Who knows when that actually releases. Hopefully Shattered Space is substantial and it's not just a single mission letdown, and it's a good bit of DLC.
Yeah.
Because if it's like DLC that's like 2 hours long, I think there's going to be some kickback.
Come on. I don't think so.
We hope so.
If you look at games like Skyrim and what those DLCs were, they were both very substantial, and I would assume that Shattered Space is at least one of those, faction quest lines, like the Rujin or United Colonies or something like that quest line. That is at least what you will be getting.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a substantial DLC then. Expect at least 20-25 hours of story content.
Yeah.
That's what I would assume. I do get your point though. But I still, it kind of became my comfort game,
Yeah.
that I just, after finishing Prince of Persia, I was like, yeah, I have 3 days now till Suicide Squad comes out. I'm not gonna start any other game by then, and I just feel like, okay, I need something calming. I go back to Starfield. I'm also in New Game Plus, and the New Game Plus really is good in that game, absolutely. And I do a lot of things very differently now than I did in my first playthrough, and I love it. And but it became just like my comfort go-to game, you know. And I wish they would improve it in a meaningful way,
Yeah.
not just like they promised to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's move on from that, and let's talk about a couple of other Xbox news this week. Your favorite topic when it comes to console talks are usually earning reports, man.
Sorry, what?
I saw you there. Yeah, you kind of got so excited that you snapped out for a second. Listen, for those who didn't see it, the quarterly Xbox revenue earnings report came out, and it jumped 49% year over year, and obviously it's driven by the Activision acquisition, and they also announced they have an all-time high record for monthly active users. Even console sales went up at least 3% year over year. And there was, as always, every quarter we have this talk out there on the socials. People were like, "Oh yeah, Xbox killing it," others trying to downplay it, and so on. At the very end, there's nothing in this earning report that truly surprised us. We knew that Xbox revenue is going to have a massive jump now within the first quarter, where they report numbers since their Activision Blizzard acquisition. Obviously, would be surprising if it wasn't like, yeah. Also, during the acquisition, we all talked about, okay, this is going to be now the third highest business division within Microsoft. Yeah, even bigger than Windows. Xbox generated more revenue than the Windows department, but it's nothing surprising, nothing new. We knew that, yeah, after the acquisition now. So that I wanna ask you, why do people seem to be so surprised by those numbers?
I don't know. We kind of all expected them to be high, and they should be for the first one. I don't think we'll see that much of a jump the next time around. But it also, and I think the only thing that's surprising me is that they expected consoles to have sold or had a higher percentage increase.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would think that when they're not trying to push console sales. Like, why they keep telling us, like, over and over again that, like, they're trying to have people playing on multiple platforms.
Yeah.
They're not pushing consoles, so why would you be like, why would they be unsure as to or dissatisfied with console sales if they're not trying to push if you're trying to push console sales, then you can be dissatisfied about the console performance. But if you're going out there and purposefully not pushing console sales, and you're saying we want you to play whatever device you want to play on, isn't trying to sell a console. So shareholders, whoever, regardless of whoever it is, Satya Nadella or anybody, I'm sorry, but you can't sit there and go, I'm not happy with the way that the consoles are selling, or that's not sold as much as we wanted. Well, no shit. You've told someone not to buy one because you can play on PC or cloud, or the whole Why are you now pretending to be confused as to why you're not selling consoles? You're not doing anything to
They
do.
literally
Yeah.
tell the customers, you don't have to buy a console, and then you can't act surprised if people don't go out and buy it. Besides all the
Yeah.
lack of marketing and things we discussed so many times in the podcast, but I do agree. And about everything else, like the revenue jump, obviously,
Yeah.
they add the Activision or the ABK, the Activision Blizzard and King revenue on top of their own. So
But even
obviously
then,
there's a
the
massive jump.
reporter said, "Oh yeah, it's like it's stronger than expected." Well, of course it is. It's like you've only just released another Call of Duty. Like, you should expect it to be high. It's like there's some just really weird phrases in there that I thought, really, like, why are you surprised? Why are you surprised that after releasing a new Call of Duty, the revenues were higher than expected for Activision? Or why are you surprised that console sales are lower than expected when you don't try and push console? Like, it's there's sort of that, like, sometimes it feels like they're disconnected from what one arm's doing versus what, like, if your marketing team is purposefully not trying to sell consoles and they're telling everyone you can play anywhere, then why are you expecting console sales to go through the roof?
Yeah, that's the part on Xbox side. What about the controversy or the discussion on the social channels?
Social channels always amazes me because it's people that don't work in finance, have never worked in finance, have got jobs as like fitness instructors or like rant or working in a corner shop or on some production line or something, and they're trying to like tell people about the financial constraints of a multi-trillion-dollar organization or how good their performance is. It's like, come on, just like lay off. Nobody actually sits there and understands what the hell half of this report is unless part of your job is working with multi-million / multi-billion-dollar companies and looking through their financial reports in order to vet them to make sure they can do X, Y, or Z. Then you're not going to understand what a quarterly or an annual accounts return of accounts or reports actually mean. Like, none of this will make any difference. And they're all like, yeah, but you don't mention numbers, you don't mention X, Y, and Z, because these companies don't work in actual numbers. They don't sit there and go, okay, well, the thing we're focusing on is we made $10 billion. Great. So what percentage increase is that? Because you can make 10 billion, but if the percentage increase versus last year is only 0.2%, then that isn't a good performance. Like, we've only improved by 0.2%. Like, what is going on? That's terrible. Like, that is the difference, and this is what people don't understand about this. So when people are looking at the reports and like, oh well, only like it went up like 49%, yeah, but then the entire ecosystem went up 6%, and this went up by 4%, and this went up by 3%. Like, they're actually relatively healthy increases. Like, you don't look at the monetary returns because the monetary returns don't really tell the picture, and shareholders don't actually care about the monetary return. They want to know what the percentage increase is. Okay, so how much is this? The reason I need to know this is because it's going to change my. You're muted as well, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you.
I need to ultimately shareholders care about dividends, and the better the company's performing, the better that share price is, the more X is performing. That is when they start to see higher dividend returns. And we're talking about corporate companies here, but that is ultimately what they want to see. Okay, what's the percentage increase? Like, these percentages need to be substantial year over year. And if we see these percentages increase, we don't care about the monetary amount, because the monetary amount it can be completely asinine. You could say, okay, we made 10 billion profit. Yeah, but that doesn't tell the full story. That doesn't tell the full story is a percentage. What is the overall year over year? So, okay, we made 10 billion profit. Great. So what's the percentage compared to last year? Well, it's only actually a percentage increase. That's terrible. like that is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. So, all right. Let's stay with the Xbox for a bit. Visions of Mana confirmed now not coming to Game Pass. Even though it was in the developer direct, it was a surprise game. There were the leaks out, that said it's in the source code. There were pictures, screenshots of it actually being on the Xbox side, being labeled. So Xbox came out, confirmed, yeah, not coming to Game Pass. That was a mistake. And now is your time to say, I told you so.
Yes. Not that I want to gloat, but I told you so. I also told Mr. Sloth that it wasn't coming to Game Pass. And again, no offense to Sloth, no offense to anybody else, but they would have mentioned it, and B, both Square Enix and Microsoft literally never mentioned it physically themselves and had never mentioned it in any other promotional thing up until that point. If it were coming to Game Pass, somebody would have mentioned it.
In our defense, for those who thought, and I belong in that part, I thought it will come to Game Pass.
Yeah.
In our defense, it's not the first and not the second time that Xbox doesn't announce a game not right away that it comes to Game Pass because they want to get those pre-orders in.
Yeah.
However,
I will add, it is also not the first time Xbox has had issues with the US, and it is only the US site, the EU site, the UK site. None of the other Xbox sites showed that it's coming to Game Pass when you type it in. It's literally just the US site.
Then, usually when something like that leaks on an official website, we are not talking about.
But they did the same thing with Octopath Traveler 2, though, which still isn't on the console at all.
Which isn't, but that is officially confirmed to come to Game Pass this year.
No, it's not. It's coming to the console this year. It's not coming to Game Pass.
Oh, that's Octopath Traveler 2.
No. She said it.
I'm pretty sure.
She said it in an interview. Oh, it's coming to Game Pass, blah, blah, blah. But that was the interviewer asking Sarah Bond about games coming to Game Pass. The game isn't confirmed to come to Game Pass. It's not. The game will release on console. It isn't coming to Game Pass.
So, if you Google Octopath Traveler 2 Game Pass, the first 10 websites here all say Microsoft signs Octopath Traveler 2 for Game Pass, Octopath Traveler 2 coming to Game Pass, blah, blah, blah. I think it is pretty sure.
No, it's not. No, it's not, because it's all from the same interview. It's all from the same interview. It's not confirmed. This is where people are getting mixed up again. It was confirmed that it isn't a Game Pass title. It's not a Game Pass title.
Someone in the chat let us know. Is it coming to Game Pass? Dustin says IGN said it's coming to Game Pass. I still think it was announced as a Game Pass title. IGN, and then it was later redacted. They say, okay. So I have to fact check that. I'll Google it after the show.
I've got the announcement trailer here for Octopath Traveler 2 coming to Xbox, and no, it just says Xbox and Windows.
So, anyways, again, in terms of Vision of Mana, I think, listen, a leak on the official, even if it was only the US side, but it was the official side. People found it in the source code.
Yeah.
And it was in the developer direct. I think those are usually three strong hints for this to be true. So, and it would still totally make sense for that game to come to Game Pass. But yeah, and JB in the chat asks, was Octopath 1 in Game Pass? Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was. Actually, it came to the day it came to Xbox, it was released in
Yeah,
Game Pass.
like I say, the trailer I've got, the official trailer on Xbox's platform as well. By the way, the official trailer shows just Xbox Windows, doesn't say Game Pass.
So, all right. Anyway, still looking forward. I haven't played it yet, but because honestly, I was holding off on buying it. It was on sale during the New Year's sale on Steam.
Yeah,
and
no,
I was
you know
like,
why I didn't. You know why I didn't get it? Because I hate having parts of series on one platform and then having to go onto the other to play the second part. If I've got the first,
I don't give a fuck about that.
No, but for me, for me and my sanity, my OCD, if I've got, and I'm exactly the same with Final Fantasy, by the way, which is why I will double dip and get Final Fantasy VII Remake on Xbox if it comes out there. But I have all of them, all of the series on every platform as far as they allow me to go. In terms of Octopath Traveler, I own Octopath Traveler on Xbox. I didn't get it in Game Pass, I bought it. I own Octopath Traveler on Switch. Like, I own it on both platforms. So I ultimately would like to own it on both of those platforms because I own the first one there. And I'd like to have the second of the series along with the first of the series. That's just me and my OCD. So if I have, like Hellblade, for instance, although I owned that on PlayStation first and played it there first, when it came to Xbox, I bought it on Xbox. And I obviously, thankfully, will get to play Part 2 on Xbox. I like having the series aligned on the same thing. If I don't want to, like, for instance, I wouldn't play Alan Wake 1 on Xbox and go to play Alan Wake 2 on the PlayStation. Like, I'll be no. Like, I'm used to it on this. Look, I'm going to play the rest of the series on this. I've already finished on this. So that's just me.
Gotcha. Yeah, that is just you. I'm sorry. No, I don't. I really don't care about that. I think more about this on the way in the likes of, okay, where do I want to play a game? And ever since I have the Alley, I have this third-party problem. You know, where do I buy my third-party games? Because if I buy my, I definitely prefer playing my games on console. So usually I buy the game, a third-party game on console. I just like the convenience. I prefer it. Boot up my Xbox, boot up any of the consoles, and play my game. That's what I prefer. But then I can't play it on the Alley on the go. And I was holding off on Octopath Traveler 2 on Steam, honestly, for that reason, because I thought, like, oh, if it's coming to Game Pass, I can play it via Play Anywhere on the Alley and on my console and have cross-save, you know? Now that you're telling me it's not coming, I might look out for the next sale on Steam, because that is definitely a game I would absolutely enjoy on my Alley. So
yeah, I've been because I'm also in the impression that Xbox probably won't get the pixel remasters of Final Fantasy.
No, I don't think so.
I am now thinking I'll probably just pick them up on Steam because they're currently on sale. All of them, you can get the bundle for like $20 or something like that for all of the pixel remasters. So,
okay.
I'll probably look into that instead of waiting for Xbox, because I think by the time I'll probably be about 65 years old by the time it comes to Xbox. So
yeah, probably.
So nothing. Yeah,
interesting. You see, now Octopath is not on sale. It's still $60 on Steam. Damn it! All right. Anyway, let us move on. Cliffy B. You know, Glyph Plasinski, the one of the creators of the original Gears trilogy. You guys know who Cliffy B is.
Yep.
He made some headlines this week.
He did, because
He had-
IGN misquoted him.
They did. Absolutely. They misquoted him, and he called them out for that. Yeah, he said basically, by the way, our good friend, the Insipid Ghost, did do that interview with him.
He did indeed, yeah.
Shout out to Luke, man. So he always has fantastic guests on his podcast. And Cliffy basically said that Microsoft would be smart to let him consult on Gears of War, at least for publicity or advertisement reasons. So what do you think? Is he right there?
In order, I think there's a multitude of reasons as to why Xbox don't want to work with Cliffy B, and a lot of it is, and it's, of course, people will hate this or like it or not, but the way people act on a public platform has every bit to do with whether or not a company decides to work with you anymore. And Cliffy B is strange. I mean, he's a cool guy, but he's a strange dude. And some of the stuff he says is wild. He talks about what he does with his wife consistently on there, like,
yeah,
his public persona is very out there and very large, and that will have an effect on whether or not they decide to work with him, or anybody decides to work with him for that matter, because ultimately the press, especially for a $1 trillion company, does matter, and you can't have people going out there that work for your company and saying things like that, regardless where it is. And you tend to find, even if you have a look at the other big creators, even Corey's took a little bit of a step back, but Corey was never kind of outlandish or like anything like that.
Definitely not the same level like Cliffy B.
Yeah.
I mean, he was controversial during.
He was, but that was in a time. Days. It was in a time as well at that point where there was a lot of controversial figures that were like highly, and this is a lot of creatives. You've got to understand this. A lot of creatives, even if you talk about Jordan Peele, the director, or Cliffy B, or like anybody that is a creative, a director of films or games or anything like that, they all come with a level of ego.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's outward portrayed, and other times it's inward portrayed, and they just take that out on their staff, and their staff tend to find out about their ego. That's not to say every creative has that kind of ego, where it's portrayed in such a way, because by all means, we've seen Corey is not like that, but there is a lot of creatives that are very egotistical and show it that way.
Absolutely. If you're a game director and you lead a team of 200, 300, 400 people or whatnot, obviously you kind of have to be, like this alpha dog.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be in that position to be head of a team that big and to lead a project that costs hundreds of millions of dollars to make. So obviously. Yeah,
and
it's very similar with what I said earlier.
Yeah.
If anyone thinks that Phil Spencer is not like a die-hard manager, I don't know where you. We always say yes. He's one of us. He's one of a gamer, and he absolutely comes across authentic.
Yeah.
But at its core, he's a die-hard manager, corporate suit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not in the board of management of the most valuable company. And that's exactly the same goes, of course, for being a game director. If you lead a Cory Barlog, what God of War, what did it cost? Like $100 million?
Yeah.
You lead $100 million project. You kind of have to be an alpha dog.
You have to have a bit of an ego. You have to. And
exactly.
But on that front, you have to have earned the right to a point to get that ego. Now, Cliffy B naturally has had a super successful franchise in
Yes.
the best Gears games in the Gears franchise. To be honest, Gears 1, 2, and 3 are still the best Gears in the franchise.
Yeah.
And obviously he knows that. Microsoft and the coalition have went an entirely different way with what he's told. We've all said ourselves we'd rather see the franchise go back to more of a horror spin than what it's turned into now, which really isn't. Now it's just a cover-based shooter that happens to be in the Gears of War universe. It's not to say that they're not good games, but they're not what made the game popular in the first place. And we'd love to see them return to that kind of thing. And on that front, I agree that Microsoft should absolutely go back and start working with Cliffy B, but I understand why they don't from his public appearance side. Because they can't.
Yeah.
Like a company of that size can't have that come back on them.
Absolutely. And listen, man, I mean, listen, the original Gears trilogy is chef's kiss. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely an incredible trilogy from start to finish. And that doesn't mean that I didn't really enjoy Gears 4 and 5. I thought for the fact that the coalition took over the IP and they built Gears 4 in 4 years. They played it safe. With Gears 4, they played it really safe, but it was a very solid and very good Gears game. And Gears 5, I absolutely enjoyed it. They tried to do a couple of things differently with like open areas, kind of side quest things, and side stuff to do. They tried to innovate on a couple of things, and people went out there and hated it for it. But if they would have done the exact same thing like they did in Gears 4, the criticism would have been it's just another Gears game. And I think the coalition so far did a really good job. They did it justice, and they are on a technical level that absolutely there's no doubt that they are the masters of Unreal Engine out there.
Yeah.
So I don't see where Cliffy B would be like helping there. So yeah.
But also, like, even if you have a think, just as the story elements to it, like, you cared about the original cast, you cared about Dom, you like people cared when Dom found his wife for the first time, and that was like like a really heart-wrenching moment. You cared when Dom sacrificed himself and like that killed people, and like there was so many things in there, and then of course remember the play on whether or not Carmine lives or dies, and it's like save Carmine, kill Carmine, and that whole play for Gears 3 was hilarious. Was it Gears 3 or Gears 2? It was Gears 3, wasn't it?
It was Gears 2.
It was hilarious.
It was Gears 2.
I loved that moment.
Yeah.
It was like after the first one when you seen Carmine like die in like 20 scenes of like, right, we can use this. We can use this. So then we got to choose, we're like save Carmine or kill Carmine, and then began the Carmine family thing, and then they introduced that into the game, and it was like kind of a running joke, and how brutally can he be murdered in this game?
Yeah.
But ultimately you had the grit, you had like remember this coming across the wretches for the first time in the oil refinery. And like a bit of a spooking thing, and like, oh god, like what are these? And then like none of the new Gears has that now, and I think everybody wants to see them return to the grit and the horror thriller kind of side of things, and the story needs to be a little bit more like close knit again, like it was. Like nobody really cares too much about Kate or JD or anybody like that.
Yeah.
They cared about the original cast, and they were kind of a back thought in 4 and 5.
Yes. Obviously, they wanted to introduce like a new generation of Gears heroes. And but I do agree, that especially this like horror-esque elements that they had in Gears 1 would be absolutely awesome to see to come back. And like one or two of those killer badass dude bro moments,
Yeah.
like in the second one when you were like cutting off the heart inside the giant worm,
Yeah.
things like that, moments like that where you were like just, oh fuck shit, this is awesome.
Yeah.
These kind of moments, yeah, that's what they kind of lacked in 4 and 5.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm still super excited for Gears. Gears 6, man. With or without Cliffy, gonna be awesome.
Yep.
Cannot wait, man.
Yep. Same.
All right, Dutch. One last topic before we get to our community questions is about 007, Project 007. I cannot wait. IO Interactive, their take on James Bond, and they had an interview out this week, and they talked about some of their ambitions for the gameplay animations and the quality and what they have seen. And they said, well, we are really focused on gameplay animations. We are pushing gameplay animations to something yet unseen. It's constantly challenging yet rewarding as the team push each other to achieve new heights. You will help cement the animations on Bond and the world we are making on a new exciting canvas. So, man, what do you think their ambitions for the new James Bond game? They really sound like, okay, they have a beautiful engine. Obviously, the Hitman games, I mean, Hitman 3 still looks phenomenal, but especially the animation part was probably not the strongest suit of those games, but they really want to double down there. What do you think, man?
Yeah, it sounds interesting. The maybe he's going for more of a hyper realistic role where they want to get the mocap and everything down for James Bond, and they want to have this very interactive and more fluid. Because ultimately, if you're a Secret Service operative, you need to be a little bit more fluid. No, granted, Hitman was good, but he was very, like you say, a little bit clunky. The animations weren't always great. But being a Secret Service operative as big as Bond, especially the IP that they've got, Hitman's an IP, but Hitman isn't Bond level IP. And I think as a studio, they are aware of, should we say, the privilege they've got of working on an IP like that. It's been a very, very. I mean, is it not the first new IP we've had since the James Bond on N64?
There was one other Bond game during the 360 days, but I really can't remember.
It obviously wasn't to the satisfaction, which is why we haven't had a
Obviously
new one.
not. Yeah.
I can't remember it. The only one I remember is GoldenEye. Like, that's literally the only one that sticks out in anyone's memory was GoldenEye.
Which is crazy if you think about it, how big the James Bond IP is
And
for
it is
decades
massive,
now.
Yeah.
It's
particularly,
massive.
you know what it is? It's much bigger outside of the UK than it is in the UK. But it tends to be the case with a lot of these British people.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, look, this British Bond super agent.
Yeah.
They love it. But the British guys, they were just like, oh yeah, it's a new Bond.
Yeah, I just find this really weird if you think about it, that James Bond has been such a big thing for so many decades now. Multiple generations do love the franchise, and there has been literally 0 video game adaptations for 20 years now or so. So Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I'd love to see. It would essentially be kind of a semi-espionage.
Thanos in the chat helped us
Tomorrow
out
Never
here.
Dies.
Tomorrow never
God.
dies. Yeah.
There needs to be. I think that the time is now for the ultimate, essentially what would be a Splinter Cell-esque James Bond with this beautiful story, linear story. Because ultimately, it should be more on that lines. It should be more of a linear, not open world. I hope to God it's not going to be like that. I hope it's like stage based, like a story James Bond where you've got to go from A to B and there's a story happening like the films are. There's ultimately an entire story from start to finish with the films, and you have your Bond girl, and ultimately they need to have a Bond girl in the Bond in this game.
Yeah.
They need to have your villain who you know from the outset who the villain is, because ultimately every Bond you know who the villain is from the start, and it's ultimately how he takes that villain down is the movie. So yeah, you kind of need that. It's also a film where a film / franchise where you know what you're getting when you get into it. I know I'm gonna get a spy action thriller. I know it's gonna be like full of explosions and beautiful Aston Martin cars, and it's gonna be like loads of fast scenes and chase scenes, and so yeah, it's gonna be all out.
That's exactly what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
See, because the Hitman games were great for the fact that they are basically stealth games, and they have a linear story just like you are hoping for, but the way how you approach the levels, the individual levels, were very non-linear. Yeah, you could solve the levels on dozens and dozens of in different dozens and dozens of different ways. You know what I mean? You could dress up as someone and poison your target, or you could lure the guy into a toilet and just kill him there, or I don't know. There are tons of different ways how to solve and finish the levels in Hitman. But the story itself at the end is still very linear.
Yeah.
With Bond, I do hope that we will get a little bit more action, like you said, than in the Hitman games. They simply have not been action kind of games, and I want the mixture. I want, yes, Bond can also be sneaky and deceptive, and
you've got all your gadgets.
Typical Bond gala, the guy in the suit.
Yeah, you've got your
there,
gadgets like your exploding pen
bow tie and then
cyanide candy or
exactly, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, absolutely. But then again, you also have these over-the-top action sequences in Bond, and you kind of have to have that mixture. We know that it's going to be an origin story, though. Yeah, so it's not origin story. They didn't say that. They said in the early days.
Yeah, so when he's just joined the Secret Service.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see what they will do with the game. And when do you think? Because it's been a long time actually now that we know that they are working on it.
Yeah, maybe see it this June, and play it next year.
It would sound reasonable. When was Hitman 3, man? Release date that's been out for a while. 21
well, they've only
now.
The Hitman collection is now officially been removed from Game Pass, so it's I would say about probably 2 years almost. That Hitman.
No, 21. 21 was Hitman 3 came out January 21.
Wait,
so it's been
what was Hitman? What was the most recent one with the episodes?
It was Hitman 3.
Yeah. Okay.
And then but I know what you mean. They basically included 1 and 2 later than with an update, and it had a name, but I'm blanking on that name.
Yeah, I think that released a little bit later. That was like after 3.
Yeah, that was like
3, and then you had the
a year or so
version.
when.
Yeah.
After. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, but it sounds like it's obviously very deep into development. They're still trying to refine the animations and improve on them. So good for them. They found what was their weak point, or one of their weak points, and they're intent on making sure that is corrected for this. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely. Cannot wait. Cannot wait.
A Bond and an
All
indie
right.
within a year of each other. Fantastic.
Fantastic indeed. All right, brother. Let us move to our community questions. For those who don't know, each and every Wednesday, you guys can write in either here on YouTube, on Twitter, or wherever you are, and send us some questions for the podcast, or topics you would like us to discuss. And so did Gally the Apirist. Never heard the word. So Gally writes in and says, obviously, during your podcast, you will be having an in-depth discussion about PlayStation's state of play. And I think, yes, we did. But he shares a great question, Dutch. I felt that it was very much geared towards the Japanese East Asia gaming market. Do you agree? Is PlayStation beginning to move focus away from the West?
Yeah, it was heavily
Japanese base. Yeah.
Which is why I didn't like it as much. There is obviously a fan base there, but for the casual consumer, the casual gamers on PlayStation, specifically in the West, do not talk about, think about, or even want any of these games.
Yes, I do agree.
And the vast majority of their user base is in the West now. They've still got a substantial market in Japan, but in comparison to the rest of the world, PlayStation is ultimately now a Western company. Their head office isn't even in Japan. The PlayStation head office is in America.
And that's the weird part about this, because, and that's why I love the question, because when I was watching this, I was like, yeah, man, so many Japanese-based games, JRPGs, and the typical over-the-top action Japanese games. And again, I love JRPGs. I do love them if they do not have that Persona art style.
Yeah,
but I do love my
traditional
fantasies,
Japanese
and I do
anime
love
style.
my Bayonettas. Yeah, and I thought Stellar Blade looked great. Yeah, I do like those kind of games, or I do love the turn-based games, like, Sea of Thieves, Sea of Stars, and your Octopath Travelers, and along in that vein. Yeah, I love those.
Although a turn-based pirate JRPG wouldn't go amiss. There's a game plan for you.
But did they have pirates in Japan? I don't know. But anyway, the point is, for many years, people have been complaining about Sony moving away the focus from Japan. Yeah, they closed down the Japanese studios, like you said. Their headquarters now, Western-based, and with that state of play, they sent a straight-out message. Okay, here are your Sony is a Japanese brand, so it's a fantastic question. Kind of feels like they wanted to swing the pendulum back and say, okay, listen, we still care about the Japanese market. We're still a Japanese company, and that was very obvious during that state of play.
Yeah, I agree. It was very obvious that it was definitely Asian orientated that time around. It was very little Western games, especially from their own second and third party. It was very Japanesey.
So yeah, great question, man. The next one is coming from Jonathan Smith. He says, hey guys, the success of Palworld forced me to think about the future of video game development, especially with the use of AI in aiding the process. People are allowed to enjoy whichever game they want for whatever reason, but does it worry you that the success of a game, which in my opinion has absolutely no soul, no clear distinction, and possibly large influence by AI, pure speculation on my part, he adds, is a glimpse into what the majority of games will be in the future.
No, because it didn't use AI. I don't know why. I don't know why people are still going with that. The game did not use AI. It did not generate anything from AI. A few of the staff said they used AI to come up with ideas for creatures, but ultimately they just took the ideas that they were giving and went wild with them and created something entirely different. But they did get ideas from it. But that would be also the same as watching or playing any other video game and taking an idea from any other video game and going, I'm going to create that, but what I want, instead of have that, I'm going to put horns on it, and I'm going to put big wings, and I'm going to color it this color, and I'm going to do this with it, and it's exactly the same thing. AI is just generating a random image. You're just going, I like the idea of that image, but I don't want that image. What I want is to embellish it to do X, Y, and Z. All the differences between that and, for instance, me watching Final Fantasy and going, see, I like the look of Cloud, but I don't like the outfit Cloud wears, and I don't like the fact that he's got gold floppy hair, and I don't like the fact that he's got the same soul as everybody else has, and blah blah. What I want to do is I'm going to give him this color outfit, and I'm going to make him a little bit more muscular and not as scrawny, and I'm going to do this with him. I'm going to do, and this is the character I'm going to come up with. But I did like the idea of this guy, this like nonchalant guy, and he doesn't really care, and he's got this little bit of an attitude, and like you can take the ideas of anything, whether it's okay using AI to generate a base image to give you some ideas, or whether or not you're watching something, whether it be a film or another game, or taking ideas from other creators. Ultimately, every game is created based on somebody liking what somebody else did, or liking some form of art, or liking some form of film, or something from these things. Certain scenes in games, for instance, could be from where a film was directed and they did this amazing shot with this beautiful scene, blah, blah, blah. And someone's seen that and goes, I want to create that kind of scene, and I want to create that aesthetic and that atmosphere, but in the game. So I'm going to take that as an inspiration. That's ultimately what it is. The difference is instead of going to another source, like another game or a film or another bit of art that someone's physically created, they're just asking, in some occasions, on this one, an AI to generate a monster based on that. Okay, create an animated monster, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to use that because it's obviously something that I don't like about it, but it is giving me a good baseline to work from, right? Okay, I kind of like that idea, but I want to do this with it instead. It's the same concept, as long as they're not just going AI and then just plonking whatever that is generated in AI into the game, which is what we don't want, then everything else is absolutely fine. But when you the issue becomes when they're intentionally going, okay, generate me 150 Pokemon that aren't Pokemon, right? Just 140 random animated monsters. They're the ones we're going to use. And then not putting any, literally no thought, none of their own inspiration or craft into it. And they're just going bloop, bloop into the game. Bloop, bloop into the game. Same with scenery. If they're just going to AI generate some scenic backgrounds or AI generate this, that, the other, yeah, then absolutely not. Absolutely not. That is the distinction you have to make. Like, if it is just purely inspiration and they've completely elaborated it and done their own art over the top of something, or changed it significantly from what they were presented, but they used that what they were presented as a baseline, that's okay. That's just getting an idea as to roughly what you want to get. If anybody's had art, especially if you get art block, and if anybody's been a creator of any kind, there is some stages, no matter how long you've been working in there, where you sit there, writers get it all the time, writer's block, where they'll sit there and they're like 40 chapters into a book and they're like, I just need to finish it, but I can't think of where to go next. Like, where could this story progress? And they need to find inspiration from somewhere or something, and they're just like, right, well, how can this progress next? Especially when you're creating a monster game, and you've got Digimon, you've got Nexamon, you've got Pokemon, you've got all of these monster catchers, you've got the Monster Hunter game, you've like all of these Monster Hunter things, Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, all of these games with monsters in them that you can take inspiration from, but you don't want to directly rip from any of these games and you want to create your own. How are you going to differentiate yourself? There's so many things that you're like, God, I need to change something up. So you're like, okay, I need to get an inspiration from somewhere without going to just every one of these sources that we've already seen before. There's going to come a point where they do that. There is, like I say, there is benefits to it, but it has to be substantially different to what is presented to them, and not just direct copy and paste. If it's direct copy and paste, I have an issue.
Listen, I think it will be rather sooner than later than when we will see some games that will do exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think those
generated
games would do
AI
well at all.
content and just put it in there.
Yeah.
You will be able to tell really easily because at the very end of the day, certain things and certain nuances give a game a soul, and that's what the distinguish, or where you can distinguish a game in between a good game or just an impactful, great game. That's the one thing. I feel like a lot of the discussions around AI are, I don't know where this will go, because of course we really don't know how fast AI will be progressing in its capabilities. There are certain things where I could see AI used directly in a game. We mentioned that before. If you talk to an NPC and the NPC is answering to you not on a pre-scripted thing, but in a way that actually represent the actions you did in a game or so, I could see that being actually really cool and awesome. There are opportunities there. But in general, the way I look at AI is just another tool. There are tons of tools out there.
Roxy, to add to the
for decades.
I want to add to something you said there with regards to the AI voice thing as well. Even on that, as a baseline, because as the baseline, what games would need to do in that circumstance if they did use the voices was at least work with the actor or actresses and get their permission to, because what they'd have to do is record their voice, their tones, their inflections, the way they say things, how they say things, and get all of that stuff then generated into this AI thing so that it can just randomly say things, but with the inflections of the actor, with the things of the actor, but the actor that is involved. And this is where the actors would then still have a role to play with AI, especially when it comes to things like AI NPCs, where, like you say, they react naturally to what you've done. So if you've murdered someone, they give a natural thing, a natural response. Then at least work with the actors to record their entire inflections on words and how they say things, so that the AI can learn their speech methods.
Yeah.
And then
I mean,
you get the best of both worlds.
It's very similar like with motion capture, right? A tool. It is a tool. We still heavily rely on motion capture to capture animation work, that the body movement looks natural, feels natural, like facial animations look natural, and so on. You still have to have that. And it's a very similar thing with AI in general that I look at it, whether it's in the video game industry, actually in the industry I work in. There's also a lot of people are scared about AI and is it going to replace my job and whatnot. But again, I feel AI, the way we should look at this is just a tool. If you talk about video game development, tools have been used for decades to help generate assets. Whether it's texture work, whether it's procedural generation to fill up like these vastly open worlds. Think about this. crafting a massive open world game like one of the Assassin's Creed games, an Assassin's Creed Valhalla or so. Obviously, you have to have thousands of people to place every single tree, every hill, every piece of grass, and every flower there. No, obviously, you're going to use tools to generate your assets. And I think, obviously, AI can be used to generate texture work, to generate, I don't know, random sounds or whatnot. Like the sound of water, or I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, tools have been used for decades, and AI is just another tool that will be used. And people have been scared of technology and about their workforce being replaced by technology ever since its inception. When they invented the steam machine, everybody thought, okay, we never need to have a worker in a factory ever again, because now we can weave all those clothes automatically and stuff like that. It always has been the case when technology evolves, people are scared of the jobs, but simply what's going to happen is there will be a shift in what you're gonna do with your work time, yeah. And that's the way how I look at AI. At the end of the day, it's just tool. People are gonna use it, obviously, and we will see games that use it very well, and others will use it in a bad way, just like we have seen games coming out for decades now that are good and bad. And I don't see that there will ever be a point where you type into ChatGPT, generate me the next Witcher,
Yeah.
and bam, there you go. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's just not gonna happen. And so yeah, I don't see this as a particular problem. It really depends on how you use it. And at the end of the day, it is a tool. Like, there are tons of procedural generation tools out there
Yeah.
already and being used in every game, almost every game, and AI is just an involvement of that. So I'm not particularly scared.
Yeah.
So Phil98 writes in, I think actually that's our good friend Sith Lord, for
Okay.
whatever reason. And under a weird name. Brother, you don't have to do it publicly, but tell me why the name change. So Sega it's more of a statement than a question. He says Sega just let go 10% of their staff. And that's true. The layoffs continue, man. Sega is now being hit. By the way, there's also the rumor leak, I don't know what you want to call it, that at IDOS the Deus Ex game was cancelled.
Yep.
Now people are being laid off there. Tencent just came out this week to report that they feel like they are struggling because, like you said earlier, Dutch, they didn't grow over the last year. They made shitload of money, but they didn't grow
Yeah.
over the last
They said they're worried about
over
no longer
fiscal
being
year.
no longer being the biggest game company in the world anymore.
Exactly, yeah. And they found themselves at a loss in the face of significant challenges, and you know exactly what that is going to mean for the workforce there.
Yeah.
It is very, very unfortunate. Feel for the people at Sega and everyone else in the industry who got laid off. We've talked about that extensively last week when Microsoft laid off all those people. For the people affected, obviously that's an awful thing, but
Yeah.
there is just something going on in the video game industry.
It's not just video games. It's, to be honest, it's You hear more about video games because we're doing it, but just in general, worldwide, there is significant layoffs. And I even had a look
especially in the tech industry.
Yeah. Tech
Especially in the
industry,
tech industry.
it's more prevalent, but the tech industry always also had the biggest amount of investment in staff post COVID.
Yeah.
And the whole remote, we'll take you on, don't care where in the world you work, we'll get all of these remote workers in, and like we're so remote friendly. Like that is part and parcel of the issue, to be honest. Was the fact that they got a bunch of these remote workers in, like tens of thousands. Activision, this is post-COVID themselves. Microsoft did, all of these tech companies did the same thing. Like, don't worry, guys. Like, we know you're all struggling and you're struggling to find work because of COVID and you want to work and blah, 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 blah. We'll hire you because you can remote work. And now, of course, it's an entirely different world. Inflation's through the roof. The cost of creating things is through the roof. Salaries have went up to match these things. The industry salaries have also increased to be competitive with one another. There's so many factors to it. And again, this is what you don't realize if you're getting offered you're super important to a studio, but another studio of equal esteem is offering you another 10,000 or 20,000 per annum more to do the same job elsewhere, you're likely going to go there. So the retention guys at your current studio is going to come back to you, and if they value you, they will produce a counter offer that will be also significant. And this is how the industry works. Depending on your value, they'll either come back with a counter offer and retain your services, or you'll go off to another studio for more. Everybody's a mercenary when it comes to money. Especially in the industry and any industry, and it's the same with me. It's the same with Boxy. If somebody offered Boxy the same money to do the same job for another company that was of the same role, but a significant increase in his pay, Boxy would go, okay, let's weigh up the positives and negatives. Aside from the fact that I'm getting a massive booster here, how far is it from here? Are the working hours and working conditions as good? What are the benefits of this job compared to my current? Okay, it outweighs the negatives to the positives. I'm going to go for that. And that's how every industry works. Outside of your basic consumer industry. This isn't things like that. We're talking like people with like career jobs. Without sounding harsh. Yeah. People with career jobs have this thing, inter-industry. You get headhunted by other companies in your sector.
Yeah.
And they'll offer you a pay rise to come and join them. It's likely happened both to Boxy. Boxy's probably had offers in the past. I know I've had plenty of offers.
I have. And I have taken some of them up in the past.
Exactly. So it happens, and this is just part and parcel of the industry at large. They're going to do mass hiring. They're going to do mass layoffs. You'll see a lot of these studios are still hiring despite all of these layoffs. Like even some of the Xbox studios themselves came out and said that, listen, we didn't want to, because it did sound weird. I mean, imagine if you're an Xbox studio amid the middle of layoffs. Are you going to go out onto Twitter and go, by the way, guys, we're hiring. Like, come and join us. Yeah. But days afterwards, they were like, we didn't want to say anything, even though we could have said something because it didn't feel right. But we do have job openings here, like in Exile and Ninja Theory and Ray and like all of these studios have job openings. All of the studios have job openings. It's just about finding the right people for the right role. But ultimately, it's like I say, it's all across. It's all across. And if your role becomes redundant, it becomes redundant. But it's just a switch. It's a switch in what they need to do in order to be more sustainable, in order to keep profits to a certain level. And unfortunately, as the old adage goes, shit rolls downhill. It starts at the top, and rolls all the way down to the next who say, okay, you need to get rid of some guys, okay, so he gets rid of a couple of guys, and then they're going, right, okay, we need to make cuts, so then they get rid of a couple of guys, and then they get rid of a couple of guys, and then they get rid of a couple of guys. They're all told to have the same remit, right, okay, we need to streamline, we need to make this thing better, Like, what's areas where you're not, like, you don't need as many people? Right, okay, that's where we're cutting. And you've got to go and choose them.
Just yeah, and I think we will hear a lot of more of these layoffs in the next couple of weeks and months.
A lot more. And I feel more for the smaller studios, because where Microsoft in 6 months to 12 months time could go, okay, the market's now in a position financially, we're more in a position from our internal level. Okay, we can spend X amount, because it's budgeting. Ultimately, it's budgeting. Okay, we've got X budget for this, X budget for this, X budget for this. Our staff budget is this. We've exceeded staff budget. We need to streamline that. Okay, and then 12 months time, they go, okay, staff budgeting's now increased. You can have an extra 100 million for staff budgeting across the year. They'll go, okay, we'll recruit. And it's the same everywhere. Okay, what's our budget level like versus this department, this department, this department, this department? Right, okay, this is what you're allowed to spend on the budget this year. Right, that's what you can do. Big companies like your Sonys and your Microsoft, etc., have a greater chance of being able to bring a lot of those staff back in 12 months' time than some of these smaller independent studios, which I feel sorry for, because if they start struggling and they start having issues, they're more likely to close doors entirely than you would do at some of these big studios. At these big companies like your Microsofts, etc., it's a very rare occasion where an entire development studio is completely closed down, unless they go, studios closed down, but we're implementing this staff into other studios, because that studio in itself wasn't producing anything. They ended up just being a support studio, so it didn't make any sense to have that studio around, but the staff were good enough to continue to keep on, so we've just put them elsewhere. It's a different story. It's an entirely different thing. If you've got a studio sitting there and they don't have a project and they're just getting used as a support studio, you may as well potentially implement them into a better way that's more effective for you. But from a purely financial level, I feel I'm more worried about the companies that don't have the support or backing of a Microsoft or a Sony or an Amazon or even a Tencent, because they're more likely to just be
to go out of business.
Yeah, to go. That's why I'm more concerned at the minute. Embracer, which clearly didn't understand the gaming industry before they got involved, we could end up seeing the end of the likes of Eidos and the likes of, even if it
Crystal and
very. If you have a look now, you've got 3 of these ex-Embracer studios that have formed other sub-studios now away from Embracer that are now working on core projects with Microsoft. 3 of them are working on core projects with Microsoft as core developers.
Yeah.
Thank God. That is that's ended up being a positive spin on this, is that we've now got In Exile, which we didn't touch on today. In Exile, working, co-developing with the, what was that the studio name used to be? I'll bring it up because they announced it.
I know what you mean. For Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Revolution. Damn it.
Yeah, there we go. Shapeshifter Games. So they've brought Shapeshifter Games on, and I've forgotten who they used to be. But they created that on the back end of the other studio, pretty much going out of business. Who was Shapeshifter again?
I have no idea, honestly. We everyone is Googling it.
Yeah, I'm like, who the hell are they again?
I mean, if you Google Shapeshifter Studio, you find tons of fitness studios. So. Anyway,
Volition. That's the one. Volition.
Okay.
Shortly after Volition closed, we flew to Illinois and worked with Xbox and then the ex-Volition leadership to secure a new team as our co-development partner. So, in exile, went and met them, Volition, when they just closed down, and went, let's make a new co-development team. And they're Shapeshifter. So, although people think Xbox are doing negative at the minute, they're still saving jobs elsewhere, where people are having to, like, aren't directly attributed to Xbox. They're going, listen, we can possibly save you and give you, like, a contract, a lifeline to help work with this game, get your studio up and running as a co-development studio, and potentially save some jobs there. So there is benefits, and that's just one of them. There's several now. You think of Crystal Dynamics working on Perfect Dark. And you've got Shapeshifter working on this, and I'm sure there's another one as well that's in development.
Fable.
Yeah.
Fable. Who was helping on Fable?
Yeah, I
One
forgot
of
who it
those
is now.
studios.
Who?
I forgot. I'm blanking. Sorry.
Yeah. I can't
It's
remember
obviously
either.
getting late.
Yeah.
But it was Fable. So yeah, man. Listen, with Embracer and those beloved studios like Crystal, Tomb Raider, obviously, and Eidos with Deus Ex, and we have like Embracer is about to ruin them. And that's why I really, really hope that Microsoft will step in once those helping contracts, or what you support contracts, are over and done. I sure hope they step in and try to get them back from Embracer, because they clearly don't know what they are doing. But Dutch, let us wrap this show up for today. Almost 3 hours in.
Yep.
It's been a blast, as always. I want to say a big, big thank you to everyone who joined us here today. And of course, everyone who listens after the fact. If you made it this far, awesome of you guys. I hope you enjoyed the show too. Was an absolute blast. That should let everyone know what you're working on and what you've coming up.
Yeah. So just streaming games as and when I have the energy to. I had a whole plan out and things like that, but that's just went out the window. I'll just stream when I can, but usually it's Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday if I do stream, or any of those 4 days. Is when you'll catch us game streaming every Wednesday and or Thursday, depending on how busy people are for the podcast. And other than that, slowly but surely working on the indie showcase for April. But yeah, that's what I'm working on. How about you?
Very good. You know, the usual. The podcast here got a lot of. I'm super excited for Suicide Squad. Cannot wait to play that over the weekend. Other than that, we will be back next week with another episode of the World of Gaming. Again, I want to shout out everyone who watched here today live with us. You guys are awesome. And yeah, we will be back next week for World of Gaming on Thursday. Other than that, the weekend is near. Let's have some fun playing some games.
Yes.
I see you guys next week. And don't forget to game on.